I'm talking about. You know, there's something fun about actually having the Thundercats, Thundercats over that sound. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Arvanauts and Sundry, to a Tuesday stream. It is December 5th, 2017. It's about 25 minutes after 12, and I hope everyone is doing well today and is looking forward to some adventures in Middle-earth Wilderland adventures as we move now into Episode 3, Kinstrife and Dark Tidings. I hope everyone is doing well and looking forward to our awesome adventure. But before we get there, I do want to remind everybody about ways to support the stream. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to follow the channel. Please check out please retweet the channel with !CTT. Please, if you haven't done so already, check out the YouTube, which has past broadcasts of all of my streams, including this series of adventures. !ArvTube will get you there. Steam group, !Steam group will let you hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams over at the Steam group. Also, !Discord, which is always hopping. That's another place where you can do this stuff as well. And of course, there's a couple ways you can support the channel financially also. The first, of course, is the Patreon, !Arvtreon, currently sitting at $3.95. This allows you to inspire the players. I actually realized I am feeling a little bit under the weather, which is why we're getting started late today. And so I did not have a chance. Last night, I basically just collapsed into bed, and I woke up not that long ago because, like I said, not feeling well. So I did not have a chance to reset the Patreon inspirations for this month. So this may be a little bit out of sorts, but I will try to fix that, as I say, this evening. But anyway, you can get inspiration if you support the Patreon at a certain level. You can also get some writing benefits as well if you want to become part of the reading critiques that we're going to be doing on this channel. You can, or I shouldn't say on this channel, but I should say people who are looking at this channel can actually join those reading critiques for people who support the Patreon at a certain tier. You can get an epic character background, an epic poem written about you, etc., etc. So all of that stuff will happen if you were able to support the channel through the Patreon. And then last but certainly not least, of course, the sub button, which is sitting right above the screen. So if you look at the little purple button there, the sub button right above the screen, you can check that out as well. So that would be lovely if you could do all those things. Now, this week is the week of D&D, people. We are starting with adventures. I actually started technically on Sunday with my face-to-face campaign. So I did that on Sunday. All 4 campaigns that I am running all happen to have sessions in the same week. So Sunday was my face-to-face campaign got started. Then today, obviously, is Adventures in Middle-earth. This afternoon, I'll be playing D&D with GOG as we continue Storm King's Thunder, so that should be a lot of fun. Then Friday will be D&D with viewers, so if you wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons with me, Friday evening will be your opportunity to do so make sure that you check out the channel for that. And then on Saturday, we are looking at D&D with the Infinity and Beyond crew as the flagship campaign steams on, so that is happening. So there's a lot of cool stuff happening with D&D this week, so if you like Dungeons & Dragons, you have found the right place and the right week to do it, because it's going to be good times. And yes, GOG will be tonight, which is lovely, and I am looking forward to that. But right now we have Dungeons & Dragons. Whoa, dear God! There we go. And another one, Chaotix with the resub. Thank you, Chaotix, very much, man. Thank you so much for the resub. Can we get some Arvany hype? Can we get the Arvany hype? Can we get some Arv quills and all that? Thank you so much, Chaotix. I appreciate it. Chaotix, we were just talking about you, actually, off air. We were just speaking about you because Chaotix actually was able to help Terry move into her new place, as we'll talk about. But anyway, make sure to follow the channel, check things out, and thank you guys all for being here at Adventures in Middle-earth, Wilderland Adventures, Kinstrife, and Dark Tidings, brought to you by Cubicle 7, which is, of course, our official sponsor. With that said, I am now going to unmute my mic so they can hear that we're about ready to go. I'm going to unmute them, and then I'm going to move over. Dun, 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 dun. There we are. Hello, everyone, and there's the entire group, just about the entire group, and a bookshelf. So we've got someone reading. Yeah, I was going to say. So the whole crew is here, and I will start, as always, with the gentleman currently reading the Player's Guide right below me, and that, of course, is Trendane. Hi, Trend.
Oh, that is incorrect. I'm not actually reading the Player's Guide.
What are you? Is the Player's Guide? What are you looking at?
I'm looking at this book.
Because
I intend to learn more about this game than you know.
Middle-earth for dummies. That's really awesome.
I was actually reading the part about Beorn, the skin changer, and I was like, what is it? And this part of it is like, so why is it called the Karok? and apparently, like yet it is an inside joke because the word Carrock is an artificial compound made up of the word car plus rock. Car is Old English for rock, and rock is modern English for car. So the real question is, why does the word rock mean rock? And the answer is because that's what we call things like that.
Right. Well, that's what he says in the actual thing. Like Gandalf says to Bilbo, he calls it the Carrack because that is what he calls it. Like, so.
It explains that in the first part of the. So I was like, oh my God, this is so funny. And I found it while I was looking for an audio card that apparently I don't have anymore. So I was like, oh my God, I need to have this as a prop for when we start so I can pretend that, I'm going to learn more about Tolkien than the guy who freaking teaches it.
So how, and I see what you're doing. Yes. Cool. X5. As soon as she gets back, I will read that introduction when we get there. So how have you been other than looking for audio cards, Trent? How's
So, as Tally knows, we were, trying and Cadix as well. We were trying to, do a testing live stream so that I can live stream the method by which I make audiobooks. Remember I did that once with Gray Shade. Yeah, that other book. You know the one.
That book.
And so every time I would turn Adobe Audition on, it would just send this horrendous sound through the thing, and everybody's like, oh God, sorry. And then I would have to shut it down and then kind of switch the transitions back and forth, and it was awful. So Cadix was helping me figure out what was going wrong, and we finally did. We did, but in the process of fixing it, now my audio interface is over there somewhere. And so that's why my volume is now so low. But I think maybe I can possibly turn this volume slider up and maybe make myself a little bit louder.
Oh yeah,
definitely louder.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Now you're in good shape.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's sort of the same thing that happened before, because if I'm doing voiceover at this volume level, it's just pegging off scale.
Yeah.
But every time I start streaming, for some reason, it's much lower volume, and I have to crank everything up so people can hear me. I don't understand. Anyway.
No, you sound good. You sound good right now, so that is good. And you are playing, sir, today in this.
I am playing Tonybear, the Hearthminder, who is a Beorning scholar.
Yes, and is going to be prominently featured based on what's going to happen in this adventure to come, which we will talk about in just a second. Moving right along. We have the well-traveled and currently back has returned to the land of his birth. Has returned to, I was about to say, as the salmon do, and then I'm like, to spawn. I'm like, no, none of that works. So never mind that part. You just went back to the UK. That's all you did.
All of that works.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Will. How are you? How's life? You recently went to Dragon Meet, I believe, right?
I did.
So tell me how it was. How was the con?
It was good. It was great. Yeah, it was great. Met a lot of people from the UK. Had a very odd experience where some people stopped me and said, "You're that guy," and I said, "Yes,
I am that guy."
Yes, I am. So yeah, it was nice. Met a lot of folks from Cubicle 7, talked nerdy things about Adventures in Middle Earth, and got very excited for the new Warhammer role-playing game, which is set to come out soon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I had a great time actually. Feeling a little like winter coldness, so I've actually like here like an old man with my blanket on my lap right now.
We're all in the same boat. I know the feeling.
No, we're not. It's not all of us. I'm fine.
You're fine. Okay, that's true. So at least one person is healthy.
Yeah. And I'm good. We're doing Kickstarter at the moment, so
link that up. That was doing pretty well as of 2 days ago when I last checked it.
We just hit the 50% mark on that, so I'm really happy.
Nice.
And just trying to get back used to the UK time zone stuff, really. So it's been a mental couple of days. But yeah, I'll be playing Robar Staunton, who has recently traveled back to his ancestral homeland to deal with some shadow problems and bring some light to the situation with his good companion, Inga.
Very, very cool. And just one last thing, because I'm looking at it. Tell the people about this adventure that is being kickstarted. So it's a third level adventure for 5e.
Yeah, third level adventure for 5e. I've been doing this podcast called Turncloaks for about 6 months now. I've been writing this homebrew world, and we've made a adventure campaign based on that. It's kind of low fantasy, low magic. The artwork is fucking awesome. super like Darkest Dungeon style. So if you're familiar with that kind of
really
game,
does look like that. Yeah,
that's the kind of vibe we're going for. It's got some great artists on it, and it's really exciting. So I'm super happy to see that it's going so well, and hopefully we can smash through that goal by the end of the month.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you guys should check that out. That's really neat. Good stuff. Yeah, I have no doubt you will blow away the goal as has been the case. But that's awesome, man. Well, welcome. Moving right along, we have another person who has been on the move as of late, and that of course is our good friend Terry. How are you, Terry? How's the place working out?
The place is in total chaos right now, but it's coming along nicely. Started working on the bedroom today so that I don't have to sleep on the couch anymore. Huge special thanks to Chaotic who's in chat right now, who helped me move all the stuff. Because Arv insisted that I tell you guys.
Yes.
Like some people know that I participated in Beamdog's official Infinity Engine fan art contest, and I made second place.
Nice.
Apparently, and that's great. It's stuff. And also, I have a different announcement to make. Next weekend, I will be attending Comic-Con Germany in Dortmund. If anybody happens to be in that general area, which I kind of doubt, but still. Please do come by my table and chat with me.
Yeah, that's you guys should absolutely do that. And that's I'm super excited about the Beamdog success or the fan art success. I'm super excited about that. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And you are playing today.
Today I'm playing Inge, daughter of Ida. She is a dwarf from the area Beorn. And she is a stonemason and wanderer. And she also has a pony. This is very important.
Yeah. Very cool. Lily, I don't totally understand. Event overlay is not showing sound is there, but not the pics or message? I don't... Oh, do you mean that it's not you're not able to see it over the dice roller? Maybe that's what you mean. Is that what you mean, Lily? The alerts are sort of obscured by something. That's quite possible. I can adjust that. But for a minute, I was like, what, where, subs, etc. I don't know what you mean. Yeah, I will address and fix that when that stuff comes up. Thank you, Lily. Assuming that is what you mean. So very cool stuff. Terry, of course, will yes alerts. Okay, cool. So that's because this is here. So let's put that right there. Thank you for the follow down low, Taku. Yeah, I do want to. No, that's fine. That's fine, Lily. I do want to mention that. Completely went out of my head as to what I want to mention. Oh, no, I remember that you guys will see Terry not only on this channel again next Tuesday when we do the next session of these, but you'll also see her in a couple of weeks when we continue our Lone Wolf live illustrated playthrough. So
yes, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, so you'll get a chance to see her quite a bit in the next few Tuesdays. And then moving right along, someone else who has been affected by Con Crud and everything else, but we will somehow survive and forge on. And that, of course, is Amal. Amal, how are you? And how's life now that you're... I mean, in general terms, anyone who's following you on Twitter knows that life has been interesting. But I guess beyond that, how has things been otherwise?
Things have been great. This nonsense in particular was that while on my way to a writing retreat in the Catskills that I'd been looking forward to for weeks because it was going to be holing up with a bunch of amazing women to just, write and make each other cocktails all weekend. Which, by the way, is what it was. It was amazing. It was super, super great. It was organized by Maria Devana Headley, who's an amazing, brilliant writer, and also a phenomenal cook who just made us tons of food. So it was great. But in order to get there, I was detained by U.S. Customs border guards for 2 hours, and it was really bad and gross and terrible. And I ranted about this on Twitter immediately thereafter, and it really blew up. And it's it's been really, really wonderful to get just lovely outpourings of support from lovely, lovely people. and that's been really great, except that like there's a kind of weird media cycle that gets generated by that. So like your tweet goes viral, and then just as things are dying down, Bleeding Cool picks it up, or CBC picks it up, and stuff, and then everything kind of grows, and the more that it goes, the more unpleasant people start to pour in order to give you their opinions on how you should feel about border guards going through all of your stuff and reading your journals and copying your phone, because feeling bad about that is just, that's being a snowflake.
Right.
So anyway, all this to say that the weekend was great, though. I did get a touch of the crud, but so I'm a little bit infiltrated. But other than that, no, it was a lovely time, and I got to see many wonderful friends and spend time with them. So that was really, really cool. Also, a thing I wanted to mention is that I also review books for NPR, and NPR just, I think today, launched their 2017 book concierge. So if you are looking for recommendations for the holidays and stuff like that, I contributed a bunch of shorter reviews to this really, really fantastic resource where you can like pick tabs of like what you're interested in. Are you interested in science fiction, fantasy, darker, brighter, longer, shorter stuff? And it'll come up with all the recommendations that we made. So
cool.
Check that out if you wished.
That is super cool. I do want to make just one thing. I saw the Bleeding Cool article, and I made the mistake probably of reading some of the comments afterwards. And I just wanted to point out, since you mentioned, of course, that you do review stuff for NPR, one of the things you review for NPR has been graphic novels. Yeah. So the Bleeding Cool commentators who are like, what does this have to do with comics? And what does this person know about comics? And what is it? I was kind of like, that's why research helps you before you say something stupid. I will have more to say about this. I'm talking with these folks off air about things we can do to sort of, anyway, we will see. I'm leaving this up to what they want to do. But just on a quick note, I was personally incensed because I know that Will has also dealt with crap dealing with our country's absurd, obsessive, nonsensical xenophobia, which has gotten much more difficult since the recent election of a fascist to office. So I apologize, even though I didn't do it and Trent didn't do it. I think I can speak for him when I say we apologize for the garbage fire that is the current immigration policy of the United States. And I'm glad that your stuff went viral and that there was there has been a very strong, it seemed to me, outpouring of support from the sensible people. Like the majority of us don't want this. I just want to make that clear, and we're trying to fix it. So.
And I mean, I think the thing that I want to be super clear about too is that, I mean, last I checked, there were something like 2,000 to 3,000 retweets or like interactions with that thread, and of those thousands of people, I think there were literally like 3 or 4 unpleasant ones, and it's entirely possible that I have like just been missing them because the volume of them is such that it's difficult to keep up with. But like the ratio has really been like vast support, tiny malignant terrible jokes. Right. So like it's and that's been just really wonderful, because I know this is why I keep wanting to go to the States. Like I have so many like friends and family who are just refusing for various reasons, and I completely understand that position. But for me, like besides the professional stuff, like just literally my closest friends live in the States. I don't want to deny myself their company. I don't want to, especially some of like, there's one extremely dear friend who's in terrible health right now, and she can't travel, but I can travel. Like I am, except for this cold, able-bodied. I could travel to her, but she lives in the States, and it's really, really frustrating to realize that like I can't. I'm like, she can't travel, but I can, but I'm not allowed to travel, and it's just extremely frustrating. So
yeah, well, I appreciate. I want to thank you for your bravery in continuing to do it, and we're trying to fix it. I'll just say that we're trying to fix it as fast as we can, but I appreciate it. I also, I do want to say to folks who didn't know, in the Tolkien Discord channel, I posted this thing where I'm like, Amal, what do you think about this and this, based on this thing that happened in Twitter? And Terry was like, well, what is this? What do you mean? And I linked it, and Terry was like, I apologize for the language. Terry's like, what the fuck is this? Like, this was really, really funny. It was just like, and that of course is the way everybody that I talked to on my channel and elsewhere felt about it. So anyway, so there is support and love from our side of things anyway, but I'm sorry that you've had to deal with it at all. That said, we are in a fellowship phase, and hopefully this will be a corrective to the lack of fellowship we see in some other areas. Amal, who are you playing today?
I am playing the River, who is a female woodman. I'm just gonna have to keep wrapping my head around that.
Woodwoman.
A woodwoman.
Yeah.
A woodman, and she and her trusty hound Stone are spending this fellowship phase in the company of Tawny Bear and the Beornings, taking the opportunity to train further and potentially gather leads and intelligence on how those goblins were quite so well equipped.
Yes.
And you are going to be very fat when we get done.
Excellent.
Yeah. So that gives us a chance to talk a little bit about all of that. In fact, let me get rid of that.
For those of you who are reading along at home, it's on page 200.
Let me read X5's introduction. X5 does these epic. You're playing as Tom Bombadil because you care about game balance. Nice, Deviser. Nice. Okay, so X5 says, it is a thriving and thrilling Tuesday. This day marks the return of a lovely tune, capitalized. She is cheesy, she is full of butters. It is our very own Terry Tunes. But she comes from new dimensions, a new homestead, and we gratulate her. Can we get some hypes? And so the adventure continues in Middle-earth, the River alongside her trusted hound Stone swiftly and with elegant grace overpowering her enemies, Robar Staunton lurking within the shadows before he strikes, and Inga alongside the River butchering their enemies, leaving behind a stream of blood. Yet not far behind, a roar is heard echoing as Tawny Bear the Northborn charges, or pacifistically sits there and tut-tuts at the loss of... so there's that. In defense of his... Oh, we got a cheer. Oh, thank you for the cheer, Demiser. In defense of his companions at this unique, very own fellowship, as it is day 11 of the Wilderland adventures, with our Arvin Elrond, the true personalities behind these fine folks of Middle-earth, Trendane, who did his first stream since long time ago. This is in all caps, so...
Well, I did, but...
That's what... Listen, it's in all caps. I'm just the messenger. Will, who keeps encountering role plays, Terry Tunes, who keeps drawing that epicness, and the newest member of them all, Amal El-Matar, who keeps tutoring and showing the wondrous students the joy of writing. But nothing shall be said further. I, Echo Alpha X5, give away to the storyteller and the fine adventurers. Make sure to follow and support our good folks who provide such fine entertainment. Thank you, X5. Very kind of you, as always. An epic introduction produced. So thank you, sir, so much.
The punnery.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's always like, yeah, man, it's good stuff. Okay, so yes, at the end of the adventure last month, you may all remember that these folks were dealing with Of Leaves and Stewed Hobbit, and they were able to save Dindy Brandybuck, although did so with a little bit more... it was not quite a stealthy removal in the way that they had planned. They sort of literally ran out of the place while it was blowing up behind them, thanks to some well-placed oil and some proper lighting at the right time. But they did manage to escape this underground goblin warren, where they had discovered these what looked like a buildup of weapons and armor. And although they probably have done a pretty good job in blowing up that particular armor and weapons, it does make them wonder what the hell is going on and why were these goblins gaining these weapons and armor in the first place, because it clearly was not goblin make these things. But when they actually departed and returned to the Easterly Inn and let Dindy and returned him to the Easterly Inn, they now have what we call a fellowship phase before we go into episode 3, which is called Kinstrife and Dark Tidings. And at the very end of our last session, Robar was given a mysterious note, which actually, Will, do you have the complete text of the note, or do you just want to paraphrase?
I do not have the complete note. No.
Okay.
I don't think unless you handed it out to me.
I did not. No, I didn't. Do you want to just tell the fine people what it was that you saw?
I didn't write it down. Yeah, I saw that there was trouble afoot in my homeland and that I needed to return to deal with that.
Yes. And this is odd since most of the people in Robar's homeland, his family, are dead. So how he's received this thing is very, very odd. And so that was sort of the setup for how we were working things going forward. So with that, it's a fellowship phase. And the way this works for folks in chat is the fellowship phase. Yeah, exactly. Cool guys don't look at explosions. No, they certainly didn't look at it. They just ran away. The way this works is all of the 4 adventurers are going to explain what they did on their winter vacation, right? So what they sort of did during the fellowship phase, and then I'm going to talk about what mechanically that means. And so I'm going to begin with Tawny Bear and the River, who spent time together as one of these pairs. So I'm going to start with them. And Tawny Bear, I guess I'll start with you as far as what you wanted to do in the fellowship phase that you're willing to share with everyone. And then we'll talk about what you did together with the River.
Well, Tawny Bear's desire, basically, pacifist that he is, was just to go home. I mean, plus he's got a herd that he has to take care of, and his bees. And I mean, for anybody who owns a house, like my very unfortunate housemate, well, I mean, we just realized that the sewer line running to the street is cracked underneath the kitchen, so we're going to have to cut a hole in the kitchen floor and repair all that.
Awesome. The joys of home ownership. I know it well.
Right, exactly. Anyway, but back to the thing. So he wanted to go home, get back to his hearth and his herd and peace, such as it is. And upon, and he's got one point of shadow that he would like to cure while he's there. So I guess I should do that.
Yes, so his return, so basically what that means, the Tawny Bear returns to his home, accompanied by, but actually, you know what, let's do it this way. Do you want to check stuff out with the River first before returning home, Tawny Bear? Sure. Okay, let's do that. So let me, so we'll talk about the healing corruption in a minute. So let me jump down then to the River. So you were concerned. Do you want to express your concern and why you wanted to accompany Tawny Bear, et cetera, et cetera?
So the Woodmen and the Beornings have a number of connections and affinities that River has already has grown up with. She feels that she that these are people among whom she can be welcome, and so it seemed like a natural place to begin sharing tidings and making inquiries about how these goblins seem to be equipping themselves, even though these, like, the nest that we cleared out was quite thoroughly cleansed with fire, literally. The sheer volume of that weapons cache gave her a great pause and made her wonder if there was a network of some kind that might need to be further pursued or ferreted out. But also, a River is a great lover of telling tales and sharing songs, and so why these so business and pleasure need not be separate in these instances, and so she'd take it upon herself to be a guest among friendly peoples and bring what songs and stories she could to these hearths, and does not seem to want to go home herself. She definitely will have sent tidings home to Rosgobel, especially to Radagast, about whatever she's found, and tell them that she is further inquiring into matters, but seems firmly committed to staying abroad, staying on the road and stuff, and not so much returning to her home, and training Stone as well to be even more helpful during battles.
Yes, that is important. And actually, that part you're probably able to do. You were able to do that in part. Hang on one second here. to assist you in one activity. Yes, okay, that's what I thought. So, the effect that this has mechanically. So I want to give you a little bit of information about what the two of you discover, the rumors that you hear about the goblin situation, and then I'll talk about what mechanically each of you benefited from in terms of the fellowship phase. So, in terms of what the both of you discovered as you were sort of doing your various bits of research. There has been some sense for a while, talking to both the Beornings and a few of the woodmen that you can see have been spending time on the western edge of Mirkwood. There has been some concern that the goblin presence has grown a little bit too quiet. That is to say, there's not the sort of typical... After the Battle of the Five Armies, obviously goblin activity dropped precipitously, which is what happens when you kill 2/3 of them. So there was a lot fewer sort of stuff going on, but there was still, occasional raids, especially on the more isolated settlements, and this is just something that the Woodmen and the Beornings are used to. However, these things had died out to almost nothing over the last 6 months to a year, which is deeply troubling because it didn't happen normally, right? Like the goblins didn't decide they were just going to become nice and, we decided we're just going to live with people and, we're going to make a band. That's not how it works. So there is something that was concerning to them about what they were planning for. And so in the process of your talking to many of them, they have talked about this fact that there has sort of been a dying down of goblin activity. Simultaneous to that, especially if you folks are looking at your map that you can see on Roll20, there has been some concern that farther down towards Roscobel and down towards this area that I've just pinged, over the next to the East Nether Vales, the Narrows of the Forest, so basically south of Woodland Hall, south of Beorn's house fairly considerably, even a little bit south of, considerably south of where you guys went to find Dindy and all that. There has been this sense of a kind of growing unease about the southern portion of Mirkwood. Now, southern Mirkwood has always been somewhat difficult. It's been an area that is, at various times, had some of the most sort of dark areas. It is the old location of Dol Guldur. There are other places. The Necromancer, for example, was found in that area in the Fortress of Dol Guldur. And if you go farther than that, you get into the Brownlands, which are really, really depressing places. So it's always been a little bit more of a concern, but that feeling of unease and darkness has started to spread into the Narrows of the Forest, even into the East Nether Vales. So those folks who take travel down to the southern portions, for example, people that go occasionally visiting Lorien, the elves coming from the Woodland Kingdom to Lorien, there is some back and forth there. There's been discomfort that they have noted, and so there is a general unease over the last 6 months to a year, and those two things are the bits of information that you can kind of put together. One, the drop in goblin activity. Two, the increased sense of unease, darkness, and so forth, kind of rising from the southern portions of Mirkwood and beginning to stretch further north. So that is the information that you know, but there is nothing specific that you discovered about. You discover the secret plans for an invasion, but it ties in, like when you talk about this with some of your woodman kin, River, the response is sort of a sort of a shaking of a head and a kind of I've heard these rumors elsewhere type of thing. So yeah.
Okay.
So that is the information that you discovered about that. Now, mechanically, the benefit to this is, as you get back to Tawny Bear's place, Tawny Bear sets a good table, and the twice-baked honey cakes are a big part of that. So the advantage of this, what he gets from this is, as I completely lost my fellowship phase, is he is going to get a chance to heal corruption. And give me a second here.
It's an insight check.
There we go. Say again?
Said it's an insight check.
Right. Yes, that's correct. Heal corruption, yes.
Yeah,
the basic idea here is that the way that one removes the taint of corruption is by doing the things that bring them closest to themselves. So in Tawny Bear's case, it's like a hell of a lot of baking, like and tending the herd and sort of getting back in touch with himself. It is a relatively mild winter, I should say, not as cold as some of the previous winters have been, which is somewhat beneficial. So you're going to need to make a wisdom and insight ability check, as you just said. If successful, you'll remove 2 shadow points. And if you get a 25 or more, you'll remove 4. Although I only think you have 1, 2. You just have 1. Okay, so let's do it. Let's
as I'm doing it, do I get to do this more than once? I mean, I don't know if the river has any shadow.
I don't have any shadow.
Oh, then I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, I don't have any shadow, and in fact, I was just looking at my sheet to see whether No, okay, it doesn't really affect shadow. I was just saying, like the campfire tales and other traits that she has would be. I'm mostly trying to think of ways in which River's desire to be a good guest would be reflected mechanically in loss of shadow or not. But no, I don't think that I can do that.
Well,
I made the 13.
You made the 13. I just made it, but you do in fact do it, and you get the sense as you're doing this, Tawny Bear, that this is healing to you. You do feel the sort of the darkness that had weighed upon you going through Mirkwood when you were dealing with Belgo and Baldur and all those guys, and also the feeling that you had when fighting that shadow-like, white-like creature. Then the whole being buried in laid out in water and all that. That feeling sort of vanishes with you as you spend time here. You do appreciate, however, the company of River, and find that you're able to find some common ground in terms of things that you both value. And sometimes you get great joy out of, picking out of the oven one of the latest of the honey cakes as an example. You try different recipes too, I should say, and pulling them out and then looking out the window and seeing that the river is outside next to the pen where the herd is kept, sort of throwing things for Stone to fetch, practicing things in terms of like jumping forward. It looks like maybe choreographing some kind of combat stuff that she wants Stone to be able to do. And so you can see them in sometimes the newly fallen snow. And finally, oh my God, what was that? We just got Brahms just became an art patron. Thank you, Brahms. Speaking of folks who are wonderful people who are Canadian, Brahms, thank you so much for the resub, man. I appreciate it. Aww. So yes, yes. So anyway, so you were able to see that. Now, River, mechanically for you, what you were able to do here is you're able to do something which involves allowing you to train your dog to complete an additional task. So you will be able to train Stone into doing something different. So the question is, what would you like to be able to? Because if you want to be able to train your excuse me, to be able to train Stone to attack, you could do that. You could train them to attack or to dash or to disengage or to dodge or to help without requiring a command from you. But each time you do like a different thing, it requires its own separate phase.
Yeah. So my question there is, what does help actually entail? Because it seems like that would be the best first choice if helping involved attacking, but otherwise it was just going to be a matter of attacking, I think. But I think, like, is that just sort of like, here is a combat situation, helping involves attacking, therefore attack? Or
help would be help would actually be more relating to ability checks or things. Like ability checks, being able to support if you were trying to pull, like as an example, well, you weren't here for this, but when Terry was trying to go up to get Baldur, who had been covered in webs, this is an example where you could have basically had Stone run over if Stone had been there during this time and tried to sort of help with that and sort of mechanically aid her with adding dice rolls and adding things to her ability to do that. So it's more of a support related role, but if you want to attack, that would be sort of the obvious one to go with.
I think that's the obvious one here, especially because they have just come out of a combat situation, so I think that makes the most sense. So.
Okay. So you were able to do that, and you were struck by how well Stone takes to it. Stone seems to enjoy this. First of all, Stone has always loved the snow, so Stone kind of enjoys dancing around and rolling around in the snow and so forth. But Stone is really seems to be enjoying the experience. Although where you folks are placed, and actually you should tell me this, Tren, where is Tawny Bear's house? Like, where is it?
It's a little bit south of Beorn's house.
Okay, so we're talking like this-ish?
Let me get back to the map.
Like here-ish?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, probably about halfway between Beorn's house and the old ford.
Got it. Okay. Are you closer to the edge of the forest, or are you more sort of in the
more in the fields?
Okay. So one of the things that you notice as you are training Stone, who does all of this work really well, is that Stone has sometimes there's times when you catch Stone sort of gazing off to the south, past where that old forest road that you can see right here is. Now, he can't see it from where you are, but it's in that direction. And there are times when Stone is very obedient and, is a pretty focused dog, all things considered. But there are times when you're sort of working on it and saying, like, Stone, and Stone is, like, kind of gazing off in that direction. And you're not really sure why that is. Stone has not typically done that in the past. But it strikes you as being somewhat unusual behavior for him to do that. That said, though, he does, in fact, learn to do this. And so what this means is that Stone will now be able to fight with them. So she'll be able to say, Stone, fight, and basically he'll be able to fight on his own. And now, I do want to point out, as it says, you won't be able to have Stone operate exactly the way you do, so you won't be able to have him disengage from an enemy. You won't be able to have him dash towards an enemy. Like, when he's fighting, he's just engaged with an enemy, and that's it. You can't do more complicated combat mechanics than that until you train him further. But at least now, he's, fighting on top of stuff. So it works, basically. So, all right, while they are occupied with baking and training, let us move over to Robar and to Inga. Robar, I will start with you. You have taken this note, and tell me what you do, what you did in the fellowship. Let's go over it again, I guess, in more detail.
Yeah, well, I would have spoken to Inga and decided that it was necessary for me to travel back home and to deal with whatever danger lurked back there. And because Inga was like, well, I've got nothing better to do, Robar would have agreed to go back. And also Robar doesn't really enjoy the idea of going back because it's that whole kind of faded ancestry, faded glory, and it reminds him that his family are basically failures. And one of his traits is if they were alive today, they would see him as a disappointment anyway. So he doesn't really enjoy going back.
Fair enough. So you and Inga then travel back to the land of your forefathers. And actually, do you want to highlight for me on the map where you imagine the land of your forefathers being? I don't want to put you on the spot.
I wasn't exactly sure where that would be, not being intimately familiar with the lore, but I was, I imagine somewhere in this in the Misty Mountain range, somewhere to the western side.
Okay, that makes sense, I think. So you'd be in one of these sort of the upper vales.
Right.
So as the both of you travel there, as you get sort of farther north and away from the darkness that I mentioned that seems to be gradually expanding from the south, you feel your spirits sort of lightening in terms of the overall environment, although you personally are troubled, as you've just said, Robar, by the existence of this thing. And Inga, for your part, as you're sort of watching him, you notice that Will seems to, Will does, his player, that Robar seems to be a little more withdrawn, even than he might normally be, sort of brooding as you folks travel there night after night. Robar, when you reach back to your ancestral home, now your ancestral home essentially is ruined at this point. So when you left it, there was very little that was left of it. There were just basically a bunch of broken down houses and walls and things like that. And when you arrive back at the area, you are sort of, I guess, thunderstruck might be a good way to put it, to note that on your family's ancestral land has been built a small, what looks like a small hut or a house even, that seems to be on the grounds it's on the grounds of your family's ancestral home, and it's literally not, 100, 200 feet from the old walls of what was your very great, impressive place. And Inga, you notice that this place must have been really impressive in its heyday. Looks like really large footprint in terms of the size of the building, and like really dramatic looking and all that. But now it has, of course, fallen away to decay. But there is this small building that has been built nearby it, nearby the fallen place, and there is it seems to be dark as you come close to it. The window in the front reveals darkness within, but that's what you see.
Can you describe the house a little bit more? Like, what does it look like?
So it is a single floor house. You might even call it like a cabin, might be a way to describe it. It is made of rough wood, and there is a sloped roof that kind of covers over the top of this house, which looks to be maybe like sort of thatched, like a thatched roof on the top of it. And in the front, you notice that there is this garden, or at least looks like it must have been a garden. It's the wintertime, so you can't really see, like there's nothing really growing at the moment. But clearly there's an area that's been sort of fenced off, like a small little area that's fenced off by itself, and then a small little pathway that leads up to a front sort of simple looking rustic wooden door. Like basically it looks like a small rustic cabin, which does not at all fit with the impression of the great fallen grandeur of the Staunton house that he had previously lived in.
But it looks like a human built this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is strange. This wasn't here before.
Well, do you want to go check it out?
I guess so. This might be the problem.
So do you know who exactly sent you the letter anyway?
Yeah, was it signed on?
Nope. No,
Maybe the person who wrote it lives here.
No one lives here anymore.
Well,
At least I thought so anyway. Maybe.
now there does, apparently.
But how would they know me and where to find me?
I have
guess-
no idea.
We'll just have to find out. Let's go inside.
Yes.
Okay. So as you walk up to the front door, you notice again just through the one window darkness, so you can't see anything basically through it. It's I should say it's early evening when you come upon the house, so it just feels like darkness. The door is shut and appears to be locked.
Do you
Guess-
want to knock?
I guess we knock.
Okay. No response. You knock a couple times, a few more times, doof, 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 nothing.
There's snow here, right?
Yes.
Are there perhaps like footprints leading away from the door?
There are no footprints leading away from the door. If there were people that walked away from it, it would have been a while ago. The snow is relatively new fallen, like within the last few days. So whoever it was that came or left, they did so before this snow arrived. Or they flew. I mean,
Right.
Or that, yes.
The Eagles! Okay, in that case, I'll probably try and shoulder barge the door in, because...
Oh, wait!
What?
Maybe we should check the back. Maybe they are there.
I guess.
Okay.
Fine.
Or maybe we can open the door in a way that doesn't completely destroy the door, because
Sure.
it's winter.
I guess.
Okay. What do you guys want? You want to go around the back or try the door?
I want to go around the back.
Okay. When you go around the back, you find that there are no windows or doors in the back, but there is what looks like a sloped door that might lead into the basement behind the house. And you'd have to check it to see if it's open, but there's like a sloped trap door, basically.
I check to see if it's open.
It is open, in fact.
Oh, Robar, come
Yeah.
here. I think I found something.
Okay.
Okay, so when do you want? I'm sorry. Do you want to open it up, or I shouldn't have asked?
Well, I wait for Robar to
Yeah,
arrive,
let's-
and then
Let's open it up.
Okay.
then
So you open it up, And so I don't know if anyone has had the experience of ever going into. I'm always reminded of my grandmother's room when I was growing up, which was sort of near the attic, and there was kind of she had a lot of quilts and stuff like that. And when you walked into the room, there was kind of a musty sort of smell. Like it sort of felt like there was age about the place, like not just her age, but I mean the things that she had were older. And that's what this feels like when you open it up. There's kind of a musty, damp smell down below, and there are these rough dirt steps that lead down into this obviously dark, apparently basement area down below.
Head down in there. If we need light, then I'll
You will.
light a torch. Yeah.
Okay. When you get down there, you find that the bottom of the basement down here seems to have. It's pretty empty. There are a couple of crates that are stacked up against the walls. And then there is one, what looks like a small wooden staircase that seems to lead up from the other side. It looks like it goes up and then bends backwards, so presumably that's how you would get to the first floor on the inside of the house. But the thing I want to point out, by the way, is that, again, you know, it's been some time since you've been here, obviously, Robar, but since you've been in this area, but you know, this has the feel of a place that's been lived in for a while, not something that's absolutely 100% brand new.
Someone's been living here, Inga.
Any clue who it could be?
Let's have a look, see if we can find any pieces of writing, letters, or a family seal, maybe? I don't imagine that anyone noble could be living here anymore.
Maybe
yeah,
one of the servants or something?
Maybe. Yeah, I'd like to have a rummage around.
Okay.
See if there are any, you know, if there's a desk, have a look through letters. If there's a bookcase, have a look through that.
I look as well.
There's not down here, but you could, if you wanted to go up the stairs, you could see what there is on the first floor. In the basement, it's just a couple of these crates.
Yeah, let's go to the first floor.
Okay. So you go up this little staircase, and at the top of it is this small little wooden door, which is not locked. And as you open it, you find yourself in a small, again, what looks like sort of like a rustic cabin. And there is indeed a desk. There's basically two rooms. There's a room that has sort of what looks like the living area. There's a fireplace against one end. There are a couple of tables. There's one what looks like a desk and a chair with some possibly a couple of papers that are in it against lying on the desk on the wall. There is also the second room is what looks like it might serve as might have served as the kitchen. There are a lot of like dried herbs and so on, like bundles of herbs that are hanging from the ceiling of this kitchen. But it's pretty clear that no one has been here for some time, weeks and weeks and weeks. There's actually on the desk a fairly thick layer of dust. And so whoever was here, and obviously they built this place and lived here after you had left Robar, but they have not been here now for several months, you would have to guess. It looks like no one has been in here for a while.
Whoever was here is long gone now, Inga. Maybe they fled whatever problem there is here, or maybe they went somewhere else for winter.
Didn't the letter mention something about orcs?
Did it?
What's up, Screaming Joypad? The letter made reference, not so much orcs. The letter made reference to we will need you to return. Basically, that there is this that you're needed. Basically, there is a need for you to return.
Okay.
And it did refer to Robar by name. But anyway, so that's what the original letter that he got said, but not orcs specifically. No.
Yeah, I didn't say that specifically. They just said that they needed me home and asked for me by name, but why ask for me and then leave?
This smells like a trap. Like, I don't trust this.
Yeah, it's strange. I don't think anyone I know would be living here, but someone clearly built this place after the fall of my family house, so maybe it is someone that we know.
I mean, it's late already. I suggest we stay here for the night. But we should take shifts. Like somebody should stay awake. Because I have a bad feeling about this.
I
But before
agree.
we go to bed, we should see if we can find any more clues as to who might have been living here.
I agree.
Okay. So you got. I mentioned you got the kitchen, you got the herbs, you got the fireplace. You've got the couple of tables. You've got there is a chair, sort of like it looks like a chair with a couple of cushions on it, sitting in front of the very cold fireplace, and empty. And then you've got the desk that's there as well. And you can look at any of those things that you want to. You can just tell me what.
I'll take the desk and sit down in the chair and start reading through any notes or any letters I can find.
While he does that, I light a fire in the chimney.
Okay. So make a perception check for me, please, as you light the fire, Inga.
Okay.
The chair is a mimic.
Dude, am I gonna find
I'm
Santa
going.
Claus in the chimney?
We find the true meaning of Christmas. That's what I need.
What's up, Elvis?
Perception check, right?
Yes. That's tremendous. I'll check you out with the 17. Okay.
Yes.
Inga, you notice as you are getting ready to light the fire, there are a few bits of wood. You notice a couple things. First of all, there are the remnants of what looks like a fire in here already. So, I mean, again, from a long time, as I said, it's very cold, probably weeks, but there was a fire here that was not put out. It burned out on its own, it seems, like if you just had to guess based upon the sort of charred pieces of wood and so forth. Also, there are what look like wispy pieces of paper that are half burned that look to have some writing on them on top of the wood inside the fireplace.
Robar, look at this. I think I found a burnt letter.
Okay. See if we can make something out from it.
Yes.
All right.
Fish out the pieces from the ashes and see.
Okay.
I should puzzle them
Sherlock
together.
Holmes right now.
Yeah, basically. So the pieces themselves, most of them are burned away, and there's only a few things that you can get in terms of words and stuff like that. You see word about Staunton. That name pops up a couple of times. You see a word about return. You see the word return on there. You see something about orcs. You do see something listing about orcs. And then you see something about family. So basically, the orcs, family, Staunton, and return are the words that you're able to make out. Robar, make a perception check for me also, please. We're gonna see if you can put these things together with anything.
It's a 22.
Okay, good. That's exactly it. The writing, both on this and on the letters that you were beginning to look at the desk, are the same handwriting as the note that you received.
Yeah. I say to Inga, and I show them to compare them. Look, it's the same hand. Whoever lived here wrote that note to me, and I can make out Staunton, return, orcs, and family.
That's odd. Do you know of any other relatives of yours, like a cousin maybe, or something? Or an uncle or somebody who could still be around?
And Robar, let me just say quickly, just in case you don't know, you thought that your entire family was dead, but there was a time when the Stauntons were a very large and prosperous family. It is possible that you missed some. I mean, that's conceivable.
Yeah. I mean, it's entirely plausible, but I don't think it's likely. I don't know. I mean, look at this place. It's not as though we as prosperous as we once were. I mean, there used to be a lot of us, but I don't know. I don't even know what they'd think of me if they were alive anyway. If they'd care much for me. I've been, wandering.
Well, I mean, if the letter you got was indeed legitimate, then apparently they do want to meet you. So,
Yeah,
do you want to meet them?
Also, I should also, I'm sorry to interrupt just quickly. I should say that those words were the ones that you got just from the sort of half-burned pieces of paper in the fireplace. But you haven't,
haven't seen orcs and
But you haven't seen the papers on the desk yet because Inga called you over. So.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure, Inga. I'll go over towards the desk and have a rifle through those notes as well.
Okay. So you find a couple things in these notes. One of them seems to be some kind of inventory. It looks like a list of things, and you see things that look like wood. You see a list of things like wood, stone, and they all seem to be numbered and then with costs next to them, like how much gold and silver something would cost and stuff like that. And it seems like an enormous amount of wood and stone that's being requested, like from what you can tell, Robar. And so you see that kind of bullet list, like, you know, as on one of those sheets. The second looks to be some kind of a letter, and it is actually addressed to you. And it says, "Dear Robar," and then says, "I don't know if you will discover this letter in time or if I will be able to contact you, but I hope you have come to find what I sent you the message about." And then there's like stuff that looks obscured, as if he was writing or she was writing very, very rapidly, and sort of like, so there's a couple of smudges of ink, and so you can't really, the next couple of portions are illegible. The next part that you can pick up says, "Rebuilding the ancestral family home," and then obscured, and then "Raids from orcs," and then obscured, and then "They are coming," and then it just cuts off. As if they were in the middle of something, and then the letter was just never finished.
As though he were in a tomb.
Yes, they are coming. Drums in the deep. No. Yes,
God,
yes,
no.
drums in the deep. Exactly. Suddenly you hear drums. Yeah, no.
Exactly what I was.
You just triggered every dwarf's PTS. Wait, that hasn't happened yet, right?
Right, exactly. That hasn't occurred yet.
Right.
Oh God.
Now we know where he got it.
They stole from us.
Oh man. Okay, I'm just writing this down.
Yeah, they don't say anything about drums in the deep.
Yeah, okay. Reads, "Dear Obar, don't know if you'll discover this letter in time. I hope you have come to find what I sent you this message about. It's obscured." And it says something about rebuilding the ancestral family home.
Can I see that list of like with the
Yeah,
stone and the wood?
I think it's if he was ordering stone and wood, or whoever was writing this letter, maybe they were trying to rebuild the family home by ordering in shipments of supplies. I mean, you need wood and stone to rebuild this place, so it looked like they were trying to rebuild it, but orcs got here too soon. Maybe we were already too late, because it reads, "I don't know if you'll discover this letter in time."
There are, by the way, those crates that I mentioned in the basement as well.
Yeah, kind of putting that together. Did they look big enough for, holding a shipment of something?
Possibly. You'd need to
Yeah.
open them, but they're fairly good-sized crates, yeah.
Yeah, those crates downstairs, Inga. They might have been what this guy was ordering. Let's break one open. But
Yes,
you're right.
let's do
We should be aware, because it sounds like there may very well be orcs in the area.
Oops.
Yeah, I hope they didn't spot us on our way here.
Yeah.
We are. I suppose we are really easy to spot in the snow. So.
You all stand out. As you were like walking up doing the parade. Da, 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 but there were, of course, only two of you. Okay, so you're going back down to check out the
Well,
crates?
and the horse. Pony.
Yes, that is true.
Of course.
Cannot forget about my pony.
That is true. That is true. Okay, so you're going back down. So you're going down to look at the crates.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So there are 4 of these crates, and they are sizable. And in each of the crates, you find different kinds of what is clearly building material. One of them has a lot of metal spikes and nails and what looks like maybe hammers and things like that. Like lots and lots and lots of them in this one crate. And then a second one has what looks like a lot of metallic fittings, like brass fittings, like maybe doorknobs and door handles and hinges and, stuff like that. And Inga, as you're looking it over, you can see that these things are very fine quality make, like they're I mean, they're not magical, but they're definitely like nice, nice quality stuff. In a
Are
third
they dwarven nice quality?
No, they look to be
Then
not
it's rubbish.
Yeah, exactly. I should say, yeah, you have standards. But I mean, comparatively for this human trash, like, I mean, yeah, it's Walmart, but like comparatively, like it's like slightly better IKEA. You know what I'm saying? Like it's that other part of IKEA. So
it's not Black Friday Walmart, is it? Is that
right. Yeah, exactly. And then the last of the crates carries what looks like a lot of thick wooden boards, but it doesn't look like boards that would be making the outside. It looks like maybe interior doors and things like that. So a lot of like fittings and fixtures and stuff like that is stacked down here. You don't see anything that looks like it was enough to make, walls and stone and like foundations or anything like that. Like there's no like hardcore foundations of buildings type stuff, but a lot of the stuff you would need after that, the stuff that you would use to make the inside of things. And on one of them, in that fittings one that I mentioned, there's actually a note on the top of it, or a piece of paper on the top, which has a list of how many, like item 50, brass hinges, item 30, and stuff like that, as it describes what's in these crates.
I checked the note if the stuff that's here actually matches up with what is listed on the paper.
In terms of the handwriting, does not.
No, I mean like the numbers. Like if it says like 10 doorknobs, and to see if there actually are 10 doorknobs.
Yes.
I just want to see if everything matches up.
Yes, there are.
Does it say on the note where the stuff comes from?
No, but it does. You do notice that the handwriting is not the same handwriting as what you saw upstairs. It seems to be
but
different
does it
handwriting.
say who ordered the
No.
stuff, maybe?
Nope, it just has a list of the, like an inventory of what's inside the crate.
Huh.
Are there any markings on the crates, maybe?
Let's see. Make an investigation check for me, please, which would be, I take that back. Make a perception check. I take that back. Make a perception check.
Good.
Never mind that. Never mind that.
Oh, God, not good.
You're like, that's a crate. I've seen crates before, and that is definitively a crate. You're like, Robar, this is a wooden box.
God.
Yeah, you do not see any markings. It looks fairly plain on the outside. Also, you had to, when you opened up the crate, it was not nailed shut, so it looks as if it has been opened before, perhaps like to inspect it or something, and then just the top of it was just laid on top.
Well,
it's
are
very
there
heavy
still
though, like you
holes
wouldn't be
from
able
where
to.
the nails were?
Say again?
Are there still holes from where the nails were?
That's a good question. I'm going to say that you're not really able to see if there are. There
I
might.
should be able to see them.
You know, you
nails
had a
in
6
the Middle
perception,
Ages
and
are
so-
huge, like this size.
Yeah, that's very true. You
I'm
don't.
starting to think there's not many clues about these boxes left.
You don't notice. Yeah, you don't notice anything obvious about the holes in the crate lid. You do, however, notice that this is extremely heavy. Like it would have required, if they brought the crate down like this, and the crate is made of pretty sturdy wood. If they brought it down, this had to be brought down by more than one person. Like there's no way one person carried down this huge, heavy crate.
Yeah.
All right. So, whoever was here left. Maybe we could try and figure out where they went. Hopefully
with
there aren't too
freshly
many...
fallen snow. That's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
They've clearly been away for weeks, so we should check upstairs again to see if we can find any other clue where they might have gone. Or
Yeah.
do you know any like places that like the most nearby town or inn or something? Maybe they know something.
Yeah, would there be any, existing nearby villages or towns or settlements, or even just like a woodsman maybe?
The problem is there are certainly going to be little individual, settlements, people that, sort of eke out a living here on the eastern foothills of the Misty Mountains. But as far as you know, there is not any, the Staunton family, when the Staunton family sort of fell into, not disrepute is a little too strong, but basically when it fell in terms of its former glory, the Stauntons were the place that had kind of, attracted people to serve them and had people that were around them. When the Staunton family sort of declined, along with it declined many of the villages and settlements nearby. If you go a lot farther north, you end up in the Vale of Gundabad, which is where a lot of goblins, and it's not a particularly nice place even today, although it's a lot better than it was before the Battle of the Five Armies. If you go south and you're heading more towards Beorn's area and the road that extends over the Misty Mountains that Bilbo would have taken, etc. But at least at this stage, there's not a lot of settlements or things like that around here. Again, you wouldn't even know about individual people because they just sort of spring up and then sometimes are destroyed by raids or attacks of creatures or whatever.
Okay, but if in the north, in the Vale of Gundarbar, there are orcs, right? And in the Misty Mountains are goblins. So
True.
The only place somebody would flee from orcs would be either to the east or to the south.
Correct. They would have gone east or south, maybe to the river and then headed south from there. That's possible.
Yeah,
or they
we could check that out, maybe, in that general direction.
Yeah, that might not be a bad idea. And hey, they've got a lot of supplies here. Maybe more are coming. Maybe whoever was here left this place to me to rebuild. And then went after Leo. Well, because they couldn't withstand the attacks.
Well, the stuff that was delivered is only for interior buildings, so...
Yeah.
So the way this is going to mechanically work, based on what we have so far here, is Robar, I'm going to give you a chance to essentially research lore. So what that means is that you will have an opportunity to do some searching, basically tracking down people at settlements if you can, trying to, further increase your radius of searching, basically, to discover more information. Then you're going to have a chance to make a check for me, which would be a lore check or a riddle ability check, which we'll see on there, or history. I wouldn't say I will say nature because it might give you a chance to track them. And then you're going to be able to make that check with advantage. If you succeed, you'll be able to ask me 3 questions relating to this problem of who are these people, who's this dude, what is this house, why are they there, and so forth. And so that's the deal with you. Inga, you have a couple of choices. You could do the same thing. You could basically try to gather information as well. Or you could try, if you wish, the other one would involve basically leaving Robar behind and then heading south again to basically find a place where you can be at rest and, heal corruption or whatever the case may be. So that's up to you in terms of how you want to mechanically spend your fellowship phase.
Okay, so to heal corruption, do I specifically need to rest or do I need to do something that my character likes to do?
The latter. You need to be doing something that your character likes, but it can't be like super exerted. You can't be exerting yourself a ton, because the whole idea is it's partially rest, but it's restful activities like Tawny Bear baking because he loves doing that sort of thing.
Yeah, because my character's kind of a workaholic, so her deal of resting would, not resting, but relaxing would be to work on her craft basically. So I thought maybe she could this shed, for example, has been has been abandoned for a while, right?
Right.
So, maybe a thing could be that she runs around and repairs stuff that needs repairing or something.
Absolutely, you could do that, and in fact, you could even use, if you wish, some of the fittings down below in those crates could be used to actually do that. Yes, you could do that for sure. I like that idea, in fact.
So, Will, what is Robar going to do again?
Robar's gonna investigate the area. He's gonna see if he can find out anything more about this person or people who were involved in this place, and he'll say, if you need to go somewhere else, Inga, you don't need to stay here with me.
Okay, but this checking out the entire area will probably take a few days at least, right?
At least. Well, longer than that. If he's going to try to kind of spread his search in the surrounding areas, probably more like a week or two to try to gather information and so forth, during which time you could be here doing repairs and stuff like that if you wish.
Okay, so what I'm suggesting to Robar then is that we stay here for a while.
Yeah.
Search the area. In the meantime, I'm gonna try to not fortify, repair this place properly for the winter, because we have no idea how long we are actually gonna stay here. Have to stay here, so let's do that then.
Okay.
All right.
like gather supplies and stuff like that.
So, Robar, you set off. Inga, you begin to do some of your repair work. And you quickly discover that this place, although, it's a cabin, it's not, certainly not a mansion or a castle, but it's relatively well put together. Whoever was doing this had some understanding of craftsmanship and workmanship and had put some effort apparently into trying to make this, even though this is just a little house in which this person was obviously living. And so as you're running around repairing things, you notice that stuff is mostly where it's fallen apart because of disuse, not because of shoddy craftsmanship, basically. So you're able to use the fixtures, for example, to work on the some of the hinges are sort of rusting, so you're able to replace some of the hinges on some of the doors. There's only a couple of doors, of course, in the entire place. You notice that the fireplace itself has some stones that are loose in the back of it, so you're able to, replace them, reshape it, build it into a dwarven fortress. No, I'm kidding. But you're able to sort of do a lot more of kind of, basically weatherizing it. Yes.
Also, what I would like to do, I would like to build like an additional roof thingy. I don't know what it's called in English. Like an extra part on the side of the
like a
An
gable
side
or
of
an
the
awning.
cabin for where I can put my pony. To
Oh,
protect
okay.
against the snow.
You're basically
Like
building
not
a
a legit
garage.
stable, but like
A garage, yeah. I got it.
I build a garage.
You're
yes.
building a garage. Okay. So you build an enclosure for some reason. I swear to God, it's Lilleman, right?
Yes.
Okay. I keep thinking Lillehammer. I'm like, no, it's where the Winter Olympics were. God damn it. Lilleman. So
That's
you
where,
build this.
Norwegian death metal comes from.
Yes. And your horse. So you build this enclosure, and again, it is a relatively mild winter, and so Lilleman is relatively happy, although kind of looks at you reproachfully sometimes when you're like, okay, I'm going to go back in and do more hammering, because there's a lot of doof, 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 and nails and sawing of wood and working with stone. But within probably about a week or so, the house looks pretty cheery actually on the inside. The kitchen itself, you sort of redo some of the herbs, which had a few of them had fallen from their bundles and were lying on the floor, so you're able to reposition them. You build like a little like a rack, like a spice rack, an herb rack that you're able to put some of these things in, and so it feels very cheery, is the way that you would describe it.
For some reason, this makes me think of that song from Calamity Jane where they clean up the place where they move into, and like the touch of a woman, I think is a song called or something.
There you go. And yeah,
that's what I'm thinking about right now.
And yes, X5, it's a homestead. Yeah, basically they built a homestead. So Inga does indeed build a homestead.
Ooh,
so
sweet.
What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to wait while I look up what I need. And then I'm going to ask you after that to do what Tawny Bear did, which is healing corruption. So what you're going to be doing here is that you're going to be making a wisdom or an insight ability check, and we're going to see whether you're successful or not. The target number is 13, so you're trying to hit 13 or above.
I do insight because I get a +2 on that.
Yep.
15.
Okay, so yes,
I have 2 points.
you remove 2 shadow points, which I think is what you had was 2.
Yes.
And as you were sort of working, hammer, working away, you feel a lot of your cares beginning to drop from you. You were never happier than when you were at work, doing stuff that involves building. Never mind all of these people who like traveling from place to place, don't want to set down roots anywhere. What you would like to do, yes, you love traveling, but you'd like having a place that's solid and steady and that isn't going to fall over in about 3 seasons. This is a place that is gonna stand. And so you feel the darkness somewhat lifting from you as you were in this process. In the meantime, Robar has been traveling far and wide over the last week to 10 days. And you do encounter a few people, a couple of trappers, and then a few other people that are fishermen who, even in the wintertime, are able to, because the river never freezes over, so even in the wintertime, they're able to ply their trade of catching some fish. And so you go over as they're bundled up in skins and furs, trying to get stuff from the river. And the information that you glean is interesting because it's possible that they did hear some things before. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to make, and you're going to have a chance to do, there's a couple ways to look at this. You could try to make a lore check or a riddle check. That would be more relating to finding out information about the person who was in this place. You could try to make a nature check in terms of asking them, have you seen anyone, walking around? Have you seen any unusual tracks? Have you seen stuff like that? So it's up to you how you want to handle it.
I would roll a nature check to see if they'd seen anyone around recently.
Do it up.
Oh.
So
oh wait, I had advantage on it, right? Did I?
You did have advantage. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, so you're good. Yeah, that's right. With advantage. Woo! Good thing too. Otherwise, you would have been like, track me. Bruh. But no. So you're able to talk to them. So you can ask me 3 questions, and I shall answer them to the best of my ability, and probably not lie. I'm just joking.
Probably. Okay, so I'd ask them, have you seen anyone in the area recently? Anyone that might have come from the old Staunton estate?
Yeah. There's been some traveling up there. About 6 months ago, there was a lot of movement up and down. Wagons, people coming by, leaving and going. There was a lot of movement up there. Ain't been anyone up at that mansion now for years. I can't remember when anyone remembers the name of the Stauntons, let alone anyone actually being on the property. But whoever it was, they were busy. A lot of building materials going back and forth from what I could see. Nothing but trouble in that, by the way. That family's cursed. No reason to get any closer to that than you need to.
Okay, so I saw trouble. I say, what about, I heard that there were fouler creatures in the area recently as well. Have you heard any tell of that?
Goblins. There's been goblins and orcs. I hear tell there's been some coming down from Gundabad. For one thing, the goblin activity kind of slowed down a little bit, But then, I've seen things at night. Some of the people around me think that I'm crazy. You wouldn't know what you're talking about, they say. But I see things, and I see what I know. And he sort of looks at you as if what he said made perfect sense. And then he pulls back, he kind of reels in this thing, and you notice there's a fairly large fish on the end of his line. And he takes the fish off and expertly pulls out a skinning knife somewhere from within the group of his furs and begins to just, first of all, he slams it on the ground and then the fish stops moving. And then just like scales fly off as he's doing this. Like, obviously this guy's done this for a while. And he said, and he says, I knew for a while that the goblins were never going to be destroyed completely. All of the people who thought that the Battle of the Five Armies was going to be where it ends, they're like rats or roaches. The more you see, the more you don't see that are below the mountains, in the caves and the dark places of the world. Well, I've seen a few of them moving around at night, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to attack again. It won't be long before civilization will be challenged by them. And who's going to know about it? Well, I will. Not that anyone listens to me. And by this point, you see that all the scales have been removed and the tail has been cut off. So
he doesn't lick the knife afterwards, does he?
No. Delicious. He doesn't.
Okay. Well, this guy's fucking crazy. Last question then. Nobody orcs know that there were people there. Orcs got rid of them. Do you know where the supplies were coming from?
He says, aye. They were all coming from the south. All leading up to the north. But I'm pretty sure I saw some boats coming up this way too. Could be that there were some that were coming through Mirkwood, and they brought them up there, took these things, and then went north on the river. That meant they had to go against the current, mind you. I saw some of these places, these large boats, flat bottoms, poling themselves up step by step. It was slow work, but there was a lot of material on there. But they were all coming from the south. Moreover, and he leans forward and says, some of them were those elves. Wood elves.
Interesting. Thank you.
Aye. And he then he takes a quick little bite of the now scaled fish and sort of wrinkles up his face for a minute and then says, that'll do, and tosses it into a little bucket next to him where he's keeping the other fish. Okay.
I head back to
Inga. Okay, let me jump back over then to, there we go. I was like, where did my adventure go? Let me jump back over then to Tawny Bear and to River. So, hold on a second. Let me jump over to them as soon as I find the part of the book that I need to get to. There we go. Okay, good, lovely. All right. It is coming on the early spring, late February, early March. So basically, just the end of winter is beginning to approach, Tawny Bear, and you have asked River to head and actually get some water because you have some great idea for some larger muffins that you've been wanting to try, and you're like, listen, this is going to be good stuff, but I'm going to need a lot of water. And so River, you've agreed to do this, and so you and Tawny Bear together, because you're going to need a lot of water, head over to the river, which is to the to the west of where you said that your house was, Tawny Bear. And as you are traveling over, you see, Tawny Bear, a boat that seems to have run aground in the thick rushes and weeds that are on the east side of the river. There are flies buzzing around two slumped shapes that lie over the edge of the boat, and there's a limp arm that trails in the water. That's all you can see from where you are.
Can I see this as well?
You can see just what I've described, yes.
Okay, yeah.
That does not look good.
No, it doesn't. We should get closer. River is going to want to dash forward.
Okay.
With Stone next to her.
As you get closer, you see the black shafts of arrows sticking out of both, obviously, corpses and the frame of the boat.
River bows her head and says something that sounds like a prayer.
Okay.
And then looks at the bodies more closely. So can we tell what race they are?
Yes. The two bodies are both those of male Beornings, from what you can tell. And if you had to guess, Tawny Bear, you would say that they were warriors of good standing. On them, they have silver cloak pins that are in the shape of a bear's head. And you actually go, River, make a intelligence, a traditions check for me, please. Tawny Bear, you don't need to make this because you already know this because you were a Beorning.
Traditions.
This is what happens on Black Friday.
Okay, yeah, you don't really know. But they look to be the sort of thing that you would give to warriors of some renown. You can definitely say that, River. But you know, Tawny Bear, that these badges are the kind that are given to men who are trusted by Beorn. These are people that served as his thanes or his wardens and watchmen.
Just gonna say.
That type of thing. And in fact, you recognize one of the dead men. It is a man named Merovech the Mighty. And Merovech was is sort of a legend in this area because he was one of the first warriors to pledge allegiance to Beorn and was one of his most trusted allies. In fact, his job, as you remember it, was to travel from village to village, sort of hearing cases and resolving disputes. He was kind of like the chief law enforcement official, basically, of Beorn's time. And you know that it was his duty to bring the accused to Beorn for justice. So the killing of this guy, first of all, any Beorning being killed like this is a bad thing, but this guy in particular being killed is a blow against how justice is enacted in this realm. And it wouldn't have been easy to do without help. This was not a person who was usually caught off guard.
And I suppose that given how many times Tawny had to go to try to speak to Beorn in the beginning to join his little cult, probably met this guy. Probably at least once.
Yes. Oh, yes. Absolutely.
I would imagine.
You haven't seen him for years, but yes, you definitely had.
This is far worse than I thought.
What do those brooches mean? Do you know? This looks dishonorably done.
Oh, it was. And these are clearly orc-made arrows, or goblin-made. One of the
Make an intelligence. If you have shadow lore, I'll take that. Make a shadow lore check. If you don't have that, then just intelligence would work.
I don't. So.
And you and the river could both do that.
Yeah. Also, River has dark foreboding. So the sixth sense of sorts when in presence of shadow. etc.
Yes, that's true. So I would say make this check at advantage then, River. So, 2 and then take the higher result.
Yeah, 16.
Okay. Yeah, these are definitely orc arrows, no question about it. They are orc make, and they look to have been fired not that long ago. They've been dead for a little while, but definitely not for tons and tons of time. This by the way is all the stuff that you've seen just standing next to, but you haven't actually moved the bodies or looked inside the boat or anything like that yet. This is just the stuff you see like standing next to it and looking at the bodies from not a distance, but like standing next to the boat.
Yeah. Those arrows reek of shadow.
Yep.
And the current runs like that way, right?
It runs north south, so it runs to the south. Yes. So yeah.
So they would have been killed north of here and then drifted and run aground here.
Could well be.
Now, given how long the bodies have been dead, is there any way to estimate how far upstream they probably got?
The problem is that as you're entering sort of late winter, early spring, the river, as happens when snow begins to melt, and it's been a mild winter anyway, has been a little higher than normal, so the current is running a bit faster, so it's not clear. I mean, certainly it wasn't miles and miles and miles and miles away,
right.
But and also, of course, you're right in the Beorning lands right now, so if these people are coming somewhat close to home, you would suspect that they wouldn't be much farther north than Beorn's house. I mean, not too much farther, because again, this guy, one of the guys who was killed, traveled all among the Beorning lands, so just from that knowledge, you would guess that it wasn't a big distance.
The brooches represent people of very high honor amongst my people, those who are especially beloved by Beorn himself, probably Thanes. This man is not one easily caught off guard. I don't know the other one.
We should look more closely at them. Perhaps they were carrying messages.
I hope not. But yes.
Okay, so you're going to look. Are both of you doing this, or just one? Or like looking inside the boat?
I mean, River is like sort of happy to do it, but in a kind of, is this all right way? Recognizing
got it,
that
yeah.
there's death.
Yeah, and Tawny Bear's a little more like kind of suspiciously keeping an eye, this doesn't sit well with him.
Right. Right.
A, he doesn't want to know more, kind of, so he's not eagerly running over, and B, he's worried that something else may be.
So you both notice, River, you notice several lengths of rope that are within the boat, which appear to have been cut jaggedly with a blade. I'd like you to make a riddle check for me, please. Also intelligence if you don't have riddle.
Oh, right. I keep forgetting I have Jack of all trades now, so I technically have riddle.
That's right, yep.
Okay, so...
So you did the riddle one, not the...
I did the riddle one.
Okay.
Should I do intelligence as well?
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure I knew
It
which
still
one. It still
uses intelligence.
Yeah, that's it. Use intelligence either way. So you're pretty confident as you're looking at it that based on the way the ropes were and the sort of way that they're placed, you're almost certain that these ropes were used to tie somebody up and that the person escaped by cutting their bonds and jumping into the river. Like if you had to guess, because it looks like, this stuff is left behind. Right. Moreover, the guy that Tawny Bear refers to as Maravech the Mighty, his sword is missing.
Huh.
The sword is gone.
Tony Bear, it looks like there was a third person here. They must have been transporting a prisoner. These ropes were cut, and it looks like if these were Thanes, as you say, one of them is missing his sword. It looks like this may have been an ambush in order to help a prisoner escape.
This bodes doubly ill then.
Is this something, should we be telling this to Beorn?
Almost certainly. Even if he isn't, even if he doesn't directly know of it, having sent this man to fetch whomever they were en route with, at the very least, he needs to know that this has transpired.
Mm-hmm.
You also know, by the way, Tawny Bear, that in this scenario, the right thing to do is to bring the bodies to Beorn so he can, dispose of them with their rights.
If there were anybody else, I'd have already burned them.
Yeah.
But
That's sort of the theory, is that you're supposed to bring the bodies to them. And you could technically, well, I'll let you decide how you want to do it. The boat is not a huge boat, so you could technically carry it if you wish. The two of you could carry it with the bodies in it. I mean, it's heavy, obviously very heavy.
Is it a flat-bottomed boat?
Yes.
So we could actually drag it if it were flat.
You could, although if you're going to bring it, Beorn's house is probably about a day's travel from here, so that would be quite a bit of dragging. You could do that, but you don't know how long the boat's bottom will hold out in that scenario.
What other options do you have? Does Tawny Bear have horses? Or
I have one or two ponies.
It's a grim burden to make them bear. But
I also have neighbors along the way.
Great. Well, we may need help to bring these farther north, because we are going north, right?
We are, yes.
All right.
But well begun is half done, so.
Yeah. So yeah, they're going to. What are we doing? Should we send for help to get more people, or?
We should be able to carry it a fair distance.
Okay.
At least to the closest of my neighbors, and they will almost certainly have a cart or something that we can use.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so that's what you guys are going to do?
Yes.
All right. So you guys pick up the stuff, and you are able to move to a close by neighbor, so to speak, who is willing to lend you, after first of all being shocked and horrified, is willing to lend you a wagon. And again, this is a you're aware acutely of sort of the impact of this, because this is not just the loss of anyone obviously is to be mourned, but especially someone like this, that's troubling to you. And after about a day's travel or so, you find yourselves as you're walking along, you are just noticing, you're walking across these patches of clover where a lot of the snow has melted here. Again, it is starting to get warmer. And as you're getting closer, you can actually see a couple of massive beehives that are nearby, and they're positioned in rows. And that indicates to you, of course, that you're getting close to Beorn's house, who keeps large groups of these huge, fierce bees. And of course, that's how you make the best honey cakes in the world, is by having the best honey. So the bees are a big part of that. And so by sunset, you arrive in sight of an ancient belt of mighty oak trees, and beyond it rises the high thorny hedge that surrounds Beorn's hall. A tall and wide wooden gate opens in the thorn hedge to the north, beyond which a wide track leads south towards Beorn's house and the surrounding outbuildings. Okay, so before we talk more about Beorn, hey Eric, what's up, man? Let me jump back over to Robar and to Inga. So Robar and Inga, you guys were back at the cabin/hut type of thing, but I'm curious as to whether you now are going to head back down to meet up with your companions or not, because this is all, they were doing this basically the fellowship phase for them lasted for a few months, couple of months, and then this is the end of that phase that they were beginning to experience this. So for you guys, you have been here probably about a month-ish or so. So basically, we're jumping back in time to talk to you two.
Right.
So the question is whether you folks are what else you're going to do here, and or when you're going to depart to head back south.
Has Robar briefed Inge on what he found out about?
Yeah, I'd have told you everything about the shipments, the elves, and all of that. Basically, he'll let you know.
Okay.
His suspicions.
How deep into winter are we now?
Now, so it's about a month earlier, so that would probably be late January, early February.
Okay.
So pretty deep in. I mean, 2/3 maybe the way through.
Yeah.
Well, Robar, what do you suggest we do?
I'm confused, Inga. I don't know exactly who was here, but I know that they were rebuilding everything, and up until about 6 months ago or so, or maybe even before that, they left. Well, they made to leave because of the orc attacks, and they were working with the elves, which means somewhere to the south, the elves are friends of my family. I'm not exactly sure what this person wanted from me, but I don't
Maybe
really.
we should meet those elves then? I can't believe that I'm actually suggesting that.
Meeting elves.
Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, yeah. Well, I suppose we're headed down south anyways, so I guess we could. But I don't think it's really my place to rebuild out that which was lost before.
Well,
We can
I
see
mean,
the elves.
it depends on whether or not you want to.
I'm interested enough to want to know what was going on here.
No, I mean rebuilding the place. That's the thing.
Yeah. We'll see about that.
Well, then I suggest we pack our things and leave in the morning.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So you do depart now. Are you leaving? You obviously have had a chance to, retrofit the basement door and everything with locks and so forth, Inga, since you've been there.
Mm.
So are you, locking everything up and throwing away the key, the equivalent, or like how are you leaving the house?
We should leave a note for whoever sent you the letter. Robar.
You're right. Yeah, that's a good idea. In case they come back whilst we're away.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the contents of the note?
Gone to see elves. Rebuilt the door.
Maybe
You're
we
welcome.
could like make up meeting point in the nearer future, like meet Beorn day so and so
Okay.
there and then we see that we,
Yeah, I
we
guess
are
that's
there
when
at
you-
that time.
God, what was life like without Google Calendar? Yeah, I'll yeah, write down, in a month, because we got a while, don't we?
Yeah.
If you find this note in a month's time, meet us here. 'Cause
Where's here?
I don't know, like at this place here. We want to go back.
No, that's a bad idea. We should
meet
do
them
that
at the
at
elves.
like down south somewhere, like somewhere where orcs wouldn't ambush us if they find the note.
Oh,
before
let's
them.
meet us at Dindy's Tavern,
Oh god.
That's called the Easterly Inn, by the way.
Easterly Inn.
Yeah, sure. let's go back there.
I can't believe I'm suggesting this.
Welcome back, friends.
Oh.
I'd rather go meet elves.
Oh man.
All right.
Okay. So you leave the note behind and depart to head south. Your journey south actually is fairly rapid, reasonably rapid. And you find yourself arriving back down towards the spot, you knew that Tawny Bear and River had been going to his house, and so he had given you the information about it. And so you take your boat south, and when you head over to the house to find them, you notice that the house is empty. You seem to be running into a lot of empty houses of late. The house is empty, and they are not there. You know that Beorn's house is to the north. Obviously, the Woodland Hall and so forth is to the south. Or they could just be, out doing foraging or whatever. But it looks as if there was a meal this morning, so it looks as if it doesn't look like they were attacked or anything, but it looks like they were not preparing for some longer trip or anything like that.
And that it's not locked.
And it is not locked, right.
Looks like they were headed out. Go inside. It's not locked.
It is unlocked, and inside you see what looks like the remains of a breakfast. You see what looks like several sheets, like cooking sheets of some kind or baking sheets that are laid out, and there are a bunch of dry ingredients in bowls, sort of like sitting around. You see a couple of things of honey, like earthenware tubs of honey, and then there are these bowls of flour and something else that seems to be around, sort of scattered around the table, but there is no sign of Tawny Bear or River, or Stone for that matter.
But there are a few honey cakes on the table if you want them.
There you go.
Wow.
I assume there's always
don't
some.
mind
It's
if I do.
it's like leaving mints around the house, right? I assume. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's grab those honey cakes. Looks like they were here and they've gone out somewhere, so it can't be too hard to track them down.
Yeah.
If,
And
you,
when,
want to, if you want to meet back up with them, or I mean, at this point, are we going to see the O Singer? In which case, we can leave a note here.
To have
We should first see if they left any tracks suggesting which direction they went.
There
because
are
maybe
indeed
they're
tracks.
actually on the way.
There are indeed tracks outside here, yes. They lead to the west.
Which is the opposite of the way we want to go, right?
Not necessarily.
Well, the elves want to go to the elves. They are in the Mirkwood, right?
Right, that would be to the east. That would be northeast. But these guys, the tracks are leading to the west, to the river. And you see also you see clearly as well large dog tracks alongside rather large, presumably Tawny Bear tracks, Beorning tracks, and then human-sized boot prints.
How old do these tracks look?
Robar, if you want to do a, let's make that a investigation check for me. Unless
I
they have
can do that too. I'm also a wanderer.
Rolled a
true.
12.
Okay. Go ahead and do that also then,
Okay.
Inga.
Where is it?
Was it second breakfast?
breakfast.
Aha, 19.
Okay. So both of you notice, but Inga probably even more so, that these tracks are recent. And Inga, if you had to guess, this is probably just within the last few hours that these tracks have been left. So you didn't miss them by much.
Robar, I believe we can actually catch up to them.
Okay. Let's do that then, and let them know where we're going before we completely lose them.
Okay, so you guys head west, assuming you're following the tracks.
Yes.
When you arrive at the riverbank, what you discover is what looks like it looks like there's something that was on the edge of the river right here. There was like a kind of flattened down area where there might have been a boat of some kind that was here, something like that. But there is nothing there now. There is, however, what looks like drag marks along with these same prints that lead away from the river, heading up to the northeast. So basically diagonally away, as if whatever was on the river was moved or pulled, presumably by River and Tawny Bear.
And those tracks would be deeper.
Right. Yes, that's definitely true. Because the drag marks only last for a little period of time before they disappear, as if something was picked up. Also, for both Inga and Robar, I'd like you to make a perception. Actually, wait. Investigation check. Yes, investigation check for me.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am positive. I am certain.
Yeah.
12 again.
Okay.
11.
Okay. You happen to both look over the river to the western bank, and you see what looks like two, if you had to guess, orc bodies. You're pretty sure they're not human. Orc bodies, which are lying in the mud. And there is a spear that is, you'd have to get a little bit closer to see it, but there's a spear that's oddly positioned relative to these orcs. So you'd need to, it's pretty shallow here, so you'd need to either swim/wade across or whatever to get closer to be able to see. But there's definitely two orc bodies, and there's this spear thing, which seems to be positioned oddly relative to them.
Looks
Robar,
like
do you want to go see that while I wait here?
You don't want to come across?
You go. Make sure it's safe first. I'll catch up.
Very well, noble dwarf.
Thank you for your courage. Okay, so you're able to.
I would lose my armor class points if I would go into the water because
I
it would wash up all the dirt. Which
I couldn't have you losing your armor class points.
Can't have that. Okay, so you make your way across fairly easily, and what you notice when you get to the other side, Robar, is they are indeed two orcs. But both, and now you see why the spear was odd, both orcs were impaled on the same spear. So whatever this spear looks like it was basically thrown and pierced two of them, like both bodies, which is a hell of a throw. Like, whoever did this was, like, no joke. And it's almost directly west of where you found this, disturbed area of the riverbank where there was some flat thing that was resting there.
Yeah. Okay. I'll call back over and say, whoever did this is some kind of badass. Our friends have most likely found these creatures and slew them. Usually, though, it's River that gets spears in her, and that's it's a change.
Can you see any footprints like that suggest in which directions I went?
Yeah, they went this way. You'd have to come across the river to see, though.
Right, then I will do that, I suppose.
Okay. You're able to make your way over with a little difficulty. Just a few moments where you're like, oh, the current's a little rough. Water over your head. It's fine. But you're able
how
to.
How does my pony manage?
Are you bringing Liliman over with you or leaving him on the eastern bank?
I am bringing him everywhere.
Okay, all right. Liliman is not wild about this either, but Liliman is able to basically kind of what is the equivalent of a horse swimming? Horsey paddle? Like what is the,
pony paddle.
Pony paddle?
Sure.
So gets across over to the western bank, and when there, you're able to see exactly what Robar just described. There are a set of confused sort of tracks here that look to be clearly orcish in nature, far more than two. If you had to guess 10, 12 maybe, but they're all confused, and they don't really lead away. It's possible that they were in the river and then went up one way or the other, or that they were in boats, or that, you don't know, but there's not really any tracks that are obviously leading away from this place. There are some tracks that seem to be leading from the west, leading to this area, but even those sort of fade pretty quickly after a few hundred feet, basically.
Yeah, tracks fade out a bit. They kind of gone far.
Can we?
Definitely no
how
human.
How far can we see here?
And definitely no human tracks, by the way, on this side, or Beorning tracks, just orcish. And as far as how far you can see, the visibility is reasonably decent. You can see a decent ways off to the west, and then back to the east. You can see the northeast. You can see where the tracks that I mentioned were leading off to the northeast.
Well, so there are no human non-orc tracks here, right?
Right.
Then they probably didn't go this direction.
Or they didn't make it. But
then their bodies would be here, right? Well,
sure.
Unless the orcs would have.
Sure thing.
No, we are not thinking about that.
I'm sure they're fine.
Fine. They're fine. Okay, well, not this direction, and let's try a different way and see if we can find any tracks of them at all. They must have left some somewhere.
Okay.
Well, unless they took a boat down the river, but
That is true. They might have taken a boat. There were tracks back there which were like signified that there was something heavy which had been pushed there. Is that correct?
Right, that's basically right. And then it just disappears entirely, as if it was pushed and then picked up. And as Tawny Bear, as Trendane out of character, mentioned, those tracks are actually deeper after the initial tracks vanish. After the flat, whatever it is, odd track vanishes, the footprints become deeper from that point, as if they're weighed down.
Yeah.
well, they picked up the thing that they were pushing.
Yeah, they probably took a boat of some kind.
But why would they pick it up though, half the way? That makes no sense.
Is it like? Does it look like you would have to, pick it up and kind of push it into the water?
Are you heading back to the eastern side of the bank to determine this?
Yeah.
Okay. So you make your way back over, and Inga
complains the
Inga and
entire
Lillaman are washed away. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't understand. Keep crossing this.
I'm so tired. Yeah, exactly. So when you get back over to the side, you can see the tracks again. What did you ask me again?
It's funny because one side of the party do one thing, and then we spend 10 minutes figuring out what they do.
It's very accurate, though. It's very accurate.
Inga would probably help you more, but she's busy wringing her beard out.
Okay, that's it.
I was going to goodness, what was I doing? That's
her
it.
question-
I was going to figure out if they had taken a boat. Basically, I think was the plan.
Yeah. I'm saying they didn't take a boat because they wouldn't have lifted it up after pushing.
Right?
it.
Does it look like there
It's
was
impossible to tell if this thing that was dragged away was indeed a boat. Then it was. There's only one of those things that you see around here. Like there's only one of those disturbed areas that has this. Like not multiple boats. There could have obviously been boats that went by here, but you don't think there would be any other boats that were dragged up on the bank because they would have left similar marks to the one that was there that you saw. Assuming this is a boat.
Good question. I mean, at the point at which we lifted our cargo and stuff, would there be other people around that they can consult to
Nope.
see? No.
Nope, not unless they find their way to the place that you got the cart from.
Right.
But otherwise, no. This is
Okay.
a fairly because settlements are few. They're scattered fairly widely here. So
Cool.
Well,
They're dead and
Robar.
you're never gonna find them.
they're lost. Hell with them.
Well, I
Like the
mean,
worst game of hide and seek. Just like, I know.
Robar.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna catch up with them after, because if they really did take a boat, then they're
Yeah,
probably long gone.
Yeah.
But so I would suggest we go back to Tawny Bear's house, leave them a note, leave the guys a note there, that we are gonna be at what's the name of the inn again?
The Easterly Inn.
The Easterly Inn. From that day forward, and that we are gonna wait for them there.
And then in parentheses, ugh.
No, in parentheses, we don't want to stay there for too long. Please
Hurry.
Please hurry. Please, God, hurry.
Oh yeah, and we should also write down that we are gonna go meet with the elves in the meantime.
Agreed.
Okay.
Maybe put the. We should also write down what we were up to until now, to just give them a heads up.
Yeah.
Like where we were staying, what happened in the meantime.
Yeah, we'll catch them up on what we've been up to.
Yeah.
All right. Let me just gonna mark. I want to mark the actual Easterly Inn. No,
I kind of get it that Gandalf didn't show up now,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
like that, mate.
it's true.
Both the adventurers had Discord. Then
Right?
it just
We just wind up leaving each other notes everywhere we go. It's like, and it
Yeah.
always ends with, how are you? Because we know they're going to show up eventually.
No, the best would be if the note would be found out of order. Because people, oh god, that would be.
Page numbers.
Yes.
There we go.
I'm just thinking about Doctor Who again with
Yeah,
River
the
Song's
diary.
the diary.
Oh god, yeah.
Well, the Doctor's diary, but the one that River.
Okay, so you guys are going to go over to the house and then head up north to the Easterly Inn, if I'm correct.
That's correct.
Okay, let's jump back over then to River and to Tawny Bear. So, as you guys are going through this gate, I do want to point out that when you push open the heavy creaking gate and you start making your way towards the house of Beorn, you feel, especially you, Tawny Bear, feel as if you were returning home after a lengthy absence. Your spirits feel somewhat uplifted, and even the bodies of the Beornings seem suddenly easier to carry. It's there, the boats. So one of you is behind, one of them is in front. Actually, who's holding the boat in front, and who's holding it behind?
Is there a part that's heavier?
It's on the cart too. I'm sorry. I also should say it's on a cart, right? I forgot they lent that to you. So technically, you could be walking alongside it as well, theoretically, but someone would still need to be pulling the cart. Yeah. So the question is,
whichever one is stronger, I'd imagine. But which one of us is stronger?
Probably you.
Probably.
10. I have a 13.
That's actually stronger than River. Yeah.
Okay. So Tawny would be pushing.
Pushing.
And then, and then River could steer from the front.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, River would ask Tawny Bear, actually, are there mourning songs or that it would be appropriate to announce our presence with as we carry these two? What solemnity is appropriate to the situation among your people?
And I presume Tawny would know that.
Yes.
Would probably communicate that.
Yes, I would say so. The main issue is the fact that the physical, they put a lot of value on having the physical body that can be then returned to the earth. And so that's why bringing the bodies itself was important. Yeah. From that point forward, there's usually a ceremony which is conducted in part by the leader, which in this case would be Beorn, obviously.
But there'd probably be a dirge while
that's the thing, is because they're transporting a body towards them. So there's
possibly, although they don't necessarily hold with things like, they're kind of practical people too, so they wouldn't necessarily do that until the actual ceremony would happen.
Right.
Not sort of walking in there. They're sort of rough and ready, right? So, so yes. Okay, that means that Tawny Bear's behind. And River, you're in front, just kind of like, where are you positioned relative to the cart? And you'll understand why I'm asking this in a minute.
Okay. Probably just. How is this cart moving? In a probably alongside, up in front, in order to steer, or whichever way is most efficient, I guess, to get the cart forward.
Okay. And Tawny Bear, you're pushing it. So you notice, Tawny Bear, as I say, that the bodies seem easier, like lighter. And as you look at the bodies, which are, of course, lying on the cart in front of you, you are surprised by the expressions on their faces. Their facial features are no longer twisted by pain and suffering, but composed and seemingly at peace, as if they were simply asleep. And you exchange a look, actually, with River. You feel the bonds of mutual friendship that ties together the company that has been reinforced by the experience. And so if either of you are not inspired, you gain inspiration as you're walking through. I don't know if either of you were not, but if you were
I was not. I used it.
You are inspired now. Hey, Radivarius.
I'm inspired now. So is that marking a one? Oh, I just get to click. Oh, that's so cool.
Yep.
Oh.
And it's a little runic F.
It's a rune, exactly.
Yeah. So as you are walking into the path, you see coming from a distance, Stone is the first one to notice, starts wagging his tail and kind of jumping up and down. And then you see running down the track towards you several large, not as large as Stone, but several large dogs. And they run up and they sniff Stone, and then they sniff you, and they bark excitedly. And then they both both dogs at some point look up and they see the bodies on the cart, and they immediately stop barking. They just get very quiet. And then they turn and sort of almost as if they're leading you, turn around, these two dogs, and walk forward, and they begin to set up this mournful howl. You were asking before about a dirge. This would be the equivalent, you think. This mournful howl, these wailing dogs as you were continuing to walk up towards the path. And they continue to do this until you reach the courtyard outside Beorn's hall, which is this long, low building with several wings and outhouses. And sitting on the front porch is the discernible and clear figure of Beorn whittling a piece of wood. Now, Tawny Bear has met, of course, Beorn before, but River has not. I don't believe, I don't think so, right? So you were struck by a couple things. First of all, how huge this guy is. Like, this is an incredibly large, burly, hairy, guy who's there. Also, yes. Also out of character, Trent notices that. You also notice that that he's not using a knife to carve the wood. He's using his fingernails to like whittle away. Yeah.
God. So splintery.
And so as he sees you, and the dogs sort of, continue to wail, and then he sort of looks up, and he sees the two of you. Oh, what do you have? And then he stands up and he sees the cart, and he sees the bodies on the cart, and his face falls. He's silent for a moment, and he says, your name's Tawny Bear, isn't it?
Now, he would be technically, Tawny Bear would address him as Thane, correct?
Yes, but they also could be addressed. Yes, they could theoretically be addressed as Beorn because they don't necessarily sit on title. But not a Beorning calling him Beorn wouldn't go over so well. But right. I'm sorry, let me take that. A non-Beorning referring to him as Beorn might not go over so well, but a Beorning might be able to do that. I mean, that's actually your name. You came to serve him, so you could use either. It depends on what you think would be more appropriate here.
This is a fairly solemn circumstance. I think some sense of propriety could be, important.
Fair.
So, my Thane, we found these beached on the river south of here.
And he says, he looks at it and he says, where did you... And he sort of stops for a minute and then says, all right, pull the cart alongside there. And he points to the spot next to the porch, or push the cart alongside there.
As we're doing that, Tawny Bear will also add, I do not know who could fell Marovich.
He says, nor do I. I want all the details in just a moment. And then he whistles. He gives this high whistle, which I will not try to imitate because it won't go over well. And these 4 horses come galloping over from somewhere elsewhere on his lands. And the 4 horses, first of all, put their heads down as they see the bodies on the cart, and they kind of push and nuzzle the bodies. And then you see the 2 dogs come over, and it looks like basically what they're doing is kind of pushing something into place, like they use their jaws and teeth to kind of pull the cart next to, and essentially what they're doing is they're kind of hooking up the cart, all with animals. No humans are doing this, or Beornings, to be able to drag the bodies off. And then Beorning says to all of you, right, I don't know who you are, he says to you, River, but come inside and be quick about it. And he turns and walks into his hallway.
River looks a little awed by Beorn, of whom she's heard many tales, and is trying to be as respectful and courteous as possible, and just does as she's told.
Okay. And I'm actually going to... let's see. No, I'm going to do the original. All right. I have to do the original because it's just too good. All right, I'm going to show people. I'm going to put it up on OBS, so Roll20 folks will see this when you check out my stream. But I'm going to put up an image of the inside of Beorn's hall. And I will fully admit that I'm doing this as geeking out because this is Tolkien's original drawing of what the inside of Beorn's hall looks like. So I have just put it up, and you guys can take a look for yourselves when it pops up.
Shut your mouth, Rob.
What's up, Rob?
No.
You think you're so funny. So Rob, of course, another member of my Infinity and Beyond crew, and a wonderful voice actor along with Tren in our vocalist crew as well. Good to see you, Rob. Okay, so he asks you to sit down at either side of that long table that you see there. There is a sort of large, really like a fire pit, basically in the middle of the building, and he settles his massive frame into an equally massive wooden chair. So you guys all have normal ones, and Tawny Bear, you're big, but Beorn's like double big, right? Like, I mean, he's huge.
He's double plus big.
Double plus big.
Double plus big. He's a giant of a man. He's dressed in a woolen tunic tied with a simple belt. And the axe at his side, which you can see now that he stands up and walks over, is a plain, unadorned weapon, notched and scraped with a lifetime of use. The only sign, really, that he's now a leader of men and now not just, everyday, garden variety Beorning, is the fact that his hair and flowing black beard are now combed. Tawny Bear, you notice, having seen him before, yes, Favio style, you notice that there's a few flecks of gray that you had not seen before in his beard. Whether this is a result of the advance of age or worry over his new responsibilities, that's of course impossible to tell. So
doesn't matter. Makes him look better.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly right. So this, folks, is an audience. So this is actually an official thing, and I want to describe that because I don't actually think that Amal would have heard this one yet, would have gone through this. So the way that an audience works, as I pull it open, is when you are seeking one, you're going to you make one of the two of you makes an intelligence or a traditions check to introduce the group. And depending on circumstances, a hero's culture can influence how they are received. So, for example, Tawny Bear as a Beorning may or may not be better received by Beorn than a woodman would, although certainly the woodmen are, well known to the Beornings as well. This isn't like having one of those, damn dwarves, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. Yeah. Just kidding, Inga. He does have that line where he says, "I'm not over fond of dwarves," but blah, blah, blah. And that will determine your initial reaction as to how these things go. So you're going to, so you want to be able to introduce themselves. So so the question is who you want to make as your spokesman, basically, for this. Both of you will be able to talk, but who's the person that kind of is like, hey, what's going on? Like, Tawny Bear, do you want to maintain that role because you started with it, or what?
Well, I've got no proficiency with traditions, so that
so would just... I think I can't remember if I have proficiency or not with it. Like, how is that?
There will be a number other than 0. You will have a check mark.
Yeah, no. Okay, so I do actually have proficiency with traditions then.
Okay.
But so it's an interesting situation because I think, like, River would probably, I could still roll traditions, but I feel like she would probably want to defer to Tawny Bear as someone who both knows Beorn and is her elder.
Okay.
But like to keep talking. She, yeah. I think she would probably exchange a look with Tawny Bear to see what he would suggest. And just kind of follow his lead, basically.
So the traditions, the intelligence check for Tawny Bear, so that you guys have to kind of balance this out in your mind. You're proficient in traditions, but Tawny Bear is going to be doing a check at advantage because he is a favored, not just he's literally favored by Beorn because he's a Beorning. So right. That means that you're going to be doing your check at advantage, but you don't have, it's just a straight intelligence check. So you guys kind of have to decide, do you want Tawny Bear to be taking the lead with, advantage but not a bonus, or do you want River to handle it? And either one of those is fine. You do know that you can sort of see Beorn, he's not tapping his foot yet, but he's kind of like, type of thing.
I know exactly how I want this to play out, and it would require me to roll very low.
Ha! Well, I think character-wise, River would absolutely defer to Tawny Bear first.
Okay. That's fine. I approve of character decisions. So, character-driven decisions. So then, Tawny Bear, this is you. So you're going to make that initial check.
Damn.
Okay. Sorry, you were just too compelling.
Well, what I wanted to happen was I wanted Tawny Bear to fail that, and so what it would wind up being was like when Pippin stepped forward to Denethor and was like, no, and he. This is where I'm talking. I need to tell you something.
Right.
I was expecting the same thing for the river to go, no, you need to know my story. And to boldly step forward and start explaining where she come from and who she is, because that is exactly the sort of, that's why I didn't want to succeed in this role, because that would be cool.
And actually,
I hear you. We're on our way.
Yeah. And actually, let me ask, that's a good call. Actually, let me ask Tiny Bear, do you want to make this a fairly short and sweet introduction? Like, first let me introduce River, who comes from the land of the blood of the blood, like, that type of thing? Or are you just kind of like, the river, met her last adventure, comes from here, or whatever? Like,
basically, it was going to be the latter of those two.
Okay.
This is who she is. We met her doing this. We killed a bunch of goblins.
Okay. So he says, you're one of the woodmen then. He says to you, River.
I am. I'm the woodman of Rosgobel.
He says,
go
ahead. No, go ahead.
No. It shouldn't. No, she'll wait to be prompted.
And he says, and he nods and he says, good. I hope you haven't run into too much trouble with orcs in my lands. I see that we've run into them, at least with these two. All right, what happened? And he looks at the both of you and says, tell me what you saw. Where did you find these two men? These two Beornings?
River steps forward and says, we found them, and describes the location precisely because I can't keep it in my head. But what we found was that they were carrying a prisoner who was not there. We saw that there were ropes that were cut that indicated that they were carrying someone. And also Marovich?
Marovich.
Mm-hmm.
Marovich's sword was missing. And everything seemed to indicate that they were ambushed by orcs in order to release a prisoner who managed to escape.
And he nods, and you see he looks troubled and says, orcs so close to my house. They were either greatly daring or very, very foolish. And as he says foolish, you can see you kind of hear the as his knuckles crack, on the table. He says, either way, they've killed my men, and that I will not allow. I sent Marovich south to the other villages along the Great River. I told him to sort out arguments and make sure all was well. I guess from the sounds of it that he and Odo, and clearly, although you did not know this person, Tiny Bear, that must have been the other one that was killed, were bringing a prisoner back to me for judgment. And he kind of shrugs his hairy shoulders and says, I never wanted to be a ruler of men, but if they choose to follow me, then they must keep to my laws, and them that break my laws must come before me for a trial at the Carrack. I would ask you, and he looks at the both of you, did you find a purse of silver coins on Marovich? I gave it to him when he left.
We investigated that, right? Yeah.
Well, we looked at them, but we didn't. I don't remember us finding it.
You didn't find. So the question is, well, so first of all, because it's important, who is going to respond to that question that he asks?
River would, because she's the one who actually approached the bodies and investigated and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. He says, so you're saying you didn't find anything?
No.
Make a persuasion check for me, please, River.
Okay.
Okay. You are very convincing. He nods and he says, I believe you. It's good to see that men can remain as honest as they sometimes are. And he sort of raises an eyebrow. And then he says, all right, so now I know what you found, or at least what you tell me you found. Tell me about the wider world then. You, River. And he sort of looks, over at you. You've come from Rosgobel. What's going on in the Woodland Hall?
Have I been there recently?
No. He doesn't know that, he just assumes.
Okay. All right. Would that I could tell you.
Then tell me something. Stories of the world. And he sort of jumps in and says, what have you found out there? Do you have anything else? Orcs that you've killed, shadows that you've destroyed. Make it quick.
Well, River warms up to this. Yes, in fact, we cleaned out an entire nest of goblins recently, and burned them, scoured them with fire, burned them back as we would the something metaphorical that is agricultural that makes sense, and we have since been spending our hearth telling winter tales, and I would tell you a tale if you would of I would tell you a tale that was not actually of the slaying of goblins, but that might perhaps have some kind of relevance to our situation.
He nods and settles back. All right, let me hear what you have.
I want to tell you the story of the old crow of Ash Hill. Now, once upon a time, there was a mother eagle, and the mother eagle had in her nest a hatchling. And there was a very, very cold night, of those kinds that come when you feel that winter is spent, but not quite yet. And the mother eagle in her nest decided that she needed to go and find some more food than usual for her eagle, just to get through the bitterness of this winter night. And off she flew. And in the meanwhile, the old crow of Ash Hill, who was a wily crow, was flying by, also looking for warmth in the cold. And he found the mother eagle's nest. But unguarded, the hatchling within was an easy prey for him, and he simply shrugged the hatchling out of the nest and settled down into the warmth of it, and huddled there, and then thought, but soon the mother eagle will return, and what might I do meantime? What could I do? And so he hatched a plan, as it were, in a nest. And when the mother eagle returned, she did not see in the darkness that the old crow of Ash Hill was not, in fact, her eaglet. And she huddled down on top of him, and he was quite warm. And she said, oh, it's such a cold, cold night, a bitter, bitter night. And the old crow said, mother, but there was a colder night than this. It is very cold, but not the coldest ever. And the mother said, what would you know about it? You were only hatched last week. And the old crow of Ash Hill said, well, if you don't believe me, you should go down and ask that bird you should ask the old bird at the forge. The bird at the forge will know more than me. So the mother eagle flew down to the old bird in the forge and said, bird in the forge, have you ever heard of a colder night than this? And the bird in the forge said, Mother eagle, I have been at this forge wiping my bill against it once a day for long enough that the piece of metal on this forge has been worn through by my beak and fallen off. But I, even in all that time, do not remember a colder night than this. And so the mother eagle, no, I do not remember a colder night than this, said the old bird of the forge, but go to the bull in the pen. The bull in the pen is older than me and may yet know. So the mother eagle flew to the bull in the pen and said, bull in the pen, do you remember a colder night than this? And the bull in the pen said, look at this magnificent pen. I have made it from my horns, which I shed once a year. And as you can see, I have been here long enough to build this magnificent enclosure for myself. And yet, Mother Eagle, I do not remember a colder night than this. But you should go to the blind salmon who lives in the lake. The blind salmon who lives in the lake is the oldest creature I know, and he surely, if anyone could remember a colder night than this, then it will be he. And the Mother Eagle went to the old blind salmon who lives in the lake, and she said, blind salmon who lives in the lake, do you remember a colder night than this? And the old salmon said, who asked you that question? And the Mother Eagle said, well, my baby eagle in my nest. And the salmon said, that was never your baby eagle. That was the old crow of Ash Hill, because there was a colder night than this. It was Old May night, lo, these many, many years ago. And on that night, as I was gathering myself for a great leap, I leaped half out of the water, and the water froze with me half out and half in the water. And on that night, the old crow of Ash Hill came by and caught me and pecked my eyes out, and that's why I'm blind. And the Mother Eagle flew back to her nest as quickly as she could. But when she got back, it was empty, and the old crow of Ash Hill had flown away, and she was left with nothing. That's the end.
That's so sad.
I know, right?
So, very nice. So Beorn leans back and says, you tell tales that are fit for late winter, River. I suppose you've had a few of those in your time. Of course, the thing you didn't mention was what happens when you're old enough to remember the crow when it was first born into the world. And he kind of looks off for just a minute, and his face has a far-off expression for a moment. And then he sort of shakes his head and he says, that was a good tale, and I'll tell you some of mine. I haven't been idle, you see. It hasn't just been sitting around here and waiting for people to come and bring me disputes to resolve and punishments to fulfill, but actually going and doing what matters the most. I have been troubled by news of orcs crossing my lands from the east, coming out of southern Mirkwood and making for the Misty Mountains. Some travelers have said the growing strength of the Free Peoples drove the orcs out of their old hiding places and forced them to flee Wilderland. But I don't think they are so lucky, nor so strong. Something else is behind the movements of these orcs, and if they and the goblins have begun to challenge my people in their lands close by, then we are indeed in trouble. So I have done what I can to resolve the situation myself. And he looks over and you can see that arrayed around the fire pit, something you had not noticed before, you saw a bunch of spits of what looked like something. You weren't really sure what it was, because it seems odd that it would be meat. You know, it's not something that you would expect Beorn to be involved with. And then you notice that what you thought were actually spits of meat were actually sort of pokers standing straight up and down, on which have been placed heads. They are goblin and orc heads, 3 of them sort of lining either side. And he says, apparently they liked your tale too. They're speechless, aren't they? He sort of lowers his head and then says, all this talking is hungry work, though. And he claps his hand, and a door at the back of the hall opens, and in comes a whole flock of sheep, right? Just tons of sheep, and the 2 dogs that you saw before, these 2 sort of shaggy hounds. Thank you, Inga. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what you see. These sheep have trays of food on their backs, and the dogs are standing on their hind legs. And as they bring you the trays, you see that the food consists of this fresh-baked bread and a stew of herbs and vegetables and mead, and then honey cakes for dessert. And as he's sort of laying these things out here, I'm going to jump away in the middle of an audience to Robar and Inga, because as you guys have left the note and are now heading north up to the Easterly Inn, you notice as you're walking north a fairly large group of Beornings, Robar and Inga, that are moving to the east, clearly towards Beorn's house. So you were following these tracks, right? But as you're going up north, you now see lots and lots of people that are going over. Yes, exactly, Tiny Bear. You see them going over.
It gets better. It gets better.
The sheep.
Oh, isn't it? A wolf in sheep's clothing is the coolest thing. That's really funny. They are. So you see these things, and you can, as you look over, you can see there are a lot of lights and sounds coming from Beorn's house. Now, neither of you are Beornings, but Robar, you in particular know that it's odd for this many people to be going to Beorn's house at this time. You can also hear sounds, even though you're still a decent distance away from Beorn's house, not that far, but you can hear sounds and sort of coming from it as you are traveling to the north.
It's almost certainly where our friends are at.
I suppose so.
Sounds like they're having a party in there.
Sounds like we should be there.
No, I hate parties.
Well,
Rejoice.
suit yourselves then.
That's why I split them all the time.
Well done. Well done. I should give you inspiration, but I won't.
I don't deserve it.
The party don't start till you.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, what do you guys want to do?
Well, I want to go see where the food is.
I guess it would make things a little easier.
Okay, so you fall in with a few of the Beornings as you were heading east, and you strike up a conversation with them, and they tell you that they are coming here because they have heard of the death of Meravech the Mighty. And they explain to you that Meravech the Mighty was basically one of the most important Beornings that there was. He was kind of a law enforcement official whose job it was to resolve disputes. And he said he doesn't know any of the details, but apparently Meravech was killed, and they're all going to Beorn's house to basically pay respects. So that's what they're doing. And as you enter the hall, of course, all of these are Beornings. And as you enter the hall, River and Tawny Bear sitting around the table, you see as your friends enter. But Beorn also sees you and says, "And who are these?" And he stares in particular at you, Inga, and he says, "What exactly are you doing here, dwarf?"
River jumps up first and she says, these are our friends. These are Inga. I don't have her full name.
Daughter of Ida.
Ida, sorry.
And so she introduces them to as mighty warriors who also took part, who who also took part in the cleansing of the goblin nest that she'd mentioned before.
Okay, and
At
he
your service.
and he
And I
sort of
bow.
he sort of nods gruffly, and then he says, "I'm sorry. Did you also introduce Robar or just Inga?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, both of them.
So I just want to make sure because so he looks over and he says, "All right, a dwarf and a Dunedain. Very well. Your friends have been telling us some tales of what happened. Sit down, you two, and be quiet." And then he looks over. You get the impression this is how Beorn is. He's kind of like social grace doesn't really come in. He's just sort of like, this is the deal.
And Tani's kind of like,
It's like just that's what the way he is. He does this. Wait a second. Who was calling me? No.
it's not me.
No, but that's important. Okay, that's not true. This person is important, but not now during D&D. Okay, so so you sit down and basically are caught up on essentially, assuming they do, Tawny Bear and River sort of fill you in on what is happening. As you are doing this, and the other Beornings have sort of sat down as well, other Beornings which are coming from these nearby homesteads, they raise these wooden drinking bowls and toast. And Tawny Bear, generally Beornings don't get together in groups like this. There's like a couple of them at a time, 4 maybe, but not this many. The last time you were in a group of Beornings this large probably was during battles, during war. And so, in a way, this gives you kind of a feeling of maybe vague discomfort, sort of. I mean, it's not that uncomfortable, just it reminds you perhaps of not a less happy time.
Right.
But there are tales that are told of Maravich and Odo and other famous Beornings. They begin to tell stories, and as they're sort of telling these stories, the 4 of you notice that the stories, and the River sort of contributed to this slightly, are sort of depressing in that they're all kind of talking about things, and you can see that they're sort of staring glumly into their mead bowls. Sort of the tales begin to die down a little bit, and kind of there's a harsh on the buzz. You know what I mean? The mood is sort of dropping as you were there. You can either take note of that or do something about it if you wish.
I think River would want to do something about it and feel slightly responsible.
This is my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I think River River is going to stand up and propose a toast, and also I think she's going to sing a song, actually, a song that is. So she's going to say that she did not know Maravich the Mighty, but that in having had the sad and solemn duty of bearing his body to this place of celebration and mourning, that she wishes to contribute something and to sing a song of the sort of his that must be wandering the world and continuing his legacy outside of it, like even beyond his life. So I think she's just going to sing a song that is a kind of rousing thing.
Okay.
I really hope this works. Presumably I have to roll something.
No, not necessarily. I'm debating whether I wanted to ask you to actually sing it. I was like, maybe, but then I figured I'll spare you because of the cold. So I'll spare you the action. But it's up to you. I mean, if you want...
I could sing a song. But I mean, let's see.
I mean, the hell with dice rolls when I can actually do it through roleplay. I mean.
Yeah. I composing it on the fly.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm trying to think of pastiching something. I'm just gonna be standing here going, I'm not sure. I'm failing my own role.
That's okay. That's okay.
I would sing something if there were like an appropriate song that I already know that I could.
Okay.
We can come back next week and you can have
it.
I'm taking requests.
You could actually know the song. Roll out the barrel. Yeah.
I can sing literally all of Hamilton, but I don't know if any of it's appropriate here.
Right. So you just look at everyone and you're like, I'm not throwing away my shot. Right. Okay. So. All right. And
the mighty was.
There you go.
The mighty was a fantastic warrior of his kind, and there was no one like him. Do. And that's as much as I can probably do without being infringing copyright.
You had to get the VOD muted.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. So that seems to perk people up a little bit. They sort of look up and around their meat bowls, and as the feast ends and people are starting to retire to bed, Beorn stands and he says, "What is to be done? What is to be done?" Okay. Now what I'm going to do is, let's see. All right. What I'd like you to do is I'd like whoever made the traditions check the first time, it was Tawny Bear, right? I'm going to ask River to make this second check, this final audience check of traditions. Okay. And we're going to see how I'll tell you what the results of that might theoretically be later. But so make a traditions check for me, please. Okay.
Woo!
That's pretty good. Okay. So as you make this check, you realize that what Beorn is not really asking for an answer. He's sort of muttering to himself, and so you sort of step back and say nothing and let Beorn come to his own decisions. And so Beorn offers you all beds in his hall, as you know, in sort of like this very comfortable, warm place. Very simple, just like basically bedrolls that are just laid out on the ground. But he says, "You'll be fine inside here, but I'd ask you to stay inside the hall. We'll speak more in the morning." And then he turns around and departs. And that evening, as you were all asleep, you all wake at various times to hear the noise of some tremendous animal growling and snuffling outside. Like that, outside. And before you hear this, and you're like, and then the sound dies away. And this happens to all four of you during the course of the night. And that snuffling remains as the fire slowly sinks into a dull reddish glow, highlighting, by the way, the pictures of the goblin skulls illuminated around the fire pit. And with that, I think we are going to bring this very productive session to a close. We will continue next Tuesday. Really wonderful role-playing from all of you. I want to give you credit, first of all, to Inga and Robar, to Will and Terry for not just immediately being like, okay, we know where they are. Let's just go run up and do that. Like, you guys did a very good job at figuring that out the right way. So
to be fair, I was kind of spacing out while they were doing their stuff, so I didn't actually know.
Okay. You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to be like, "Oh yes, that was all part of my plan."
I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah. But no, I mean, you guys did very well with that. I like those little moments where you can sort of have these meanwhile over here. So I thought it was fun bouncing back and forth. And then Tren and Mal, just wonderful, really wonderful stuff from both of you. And obviously that story was great. I don't care if it was a Celtic tale that you're retelling out there.
I want to give credit to Catherine Crowe for telling me that story the first time.
Cool.
I know it still gives me chills every time I hear it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really dig it. So that's neat stuff. And this is why I love D&D, and this particular campaign I'm really enjoying a lot because of the little Tolkien influences. So next week we will reconvene and figure out what happens next now that Beorn has heard all this stuff, as we are now officially in the middle of Kinstrife and Dark Tidings. So I will, as always, work in the opposite direction. I will start with Amal. Where will people be able to find information or stuff about, like, anything you want to sort of chat up about stuff going on with you?
So you can always follow me on Twitter at Tithenai, which is Tithenai. It's the Greek word from which thesis is derived. I picked it in 2004 and stuck with it. You can also go to, I know, right? Or lack of imagination. Either way. Or you can also find me at my website, amalelmahtar.com. And like I mentioned earlier, I write reviews for NPR, and you can check out their concierge situation, which is like a huge list of best books of 2017 to recommend if you're looking for Rex. I write short fiction and poetry as well, and you can find an award-winning short story of mine in a collection called The Starlit Wood Anthology, edited by Nava Wolf and Dominique Parisien. It's a very, very, very beautiful book, full of really gorgeous stories besides mine, so you should definitely get it. And what else have I done recently that I can talk about? I think that's probably it. Except that if you want to know things that are happening super far in the future, I have a novella coming out in 2019, co-written with Max Gladstone, called "This Is How You Lose the Time War."
Good stuff, and of course the tremendous title. But great
right?
stuff today, and I'm sorry that you're under the weather, but I'm glad that you were able to push through it nonetheless. So thank you for doing great stuff today. Moving right along, Terry, great stuff as always, and I'm glad that you got a chance to actually do some serious house repairs, like serious home repair. Terry, where can we find stuff about you, etc.?
I'm all over the social media stuff: Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. I also have a Patreon, which people should check out.
Yeah, they should.
I'm on DeviantArt, all under the name of Taritunes. And other than that, I will be back here next Tuesday with the other guys for another session and of Wilderland Adventures. And the week after, on the 12th, no, wait, next week is the 12th.
The 19th.
On the 19th, Arf and I will be doing in the next session of Lone Wolf, a Choose Your Own Adventure book.
Yep.
Which, by the way, I did not have the opportunity yet to tell you that, Arf, but over at the Beamdog forums, where I also post my art and stuff, I got some pretty nice feedbacks in regards to the Lone Wolf art.
Oh, nice.
So, yes.
Nice. Well, I don't want to embarrass Terry, but as I've said all along, like I love the work that she does anyway, but I just love the work that she's been doing with these sessions. So that's really awesome. You guys should check it out. Not only is it doing fun choose your own adventure stuff, but it's doing it with the live illustration. So it's really cool. So great stuff.
A lot of fun to do.
Yeah, so, I'm glad that we are doing it. So thank you, Terry. Great stuff, and we will see you next week. Moving right along, of course, our good friend Will from Encounter Roleplay. Will, great stuff today as always, as the mystery of the backstory of Robar Staunton deepens. So where will the fine folks see you? Which of the 700 D&D sessions will you be conducting next?
Today is Tuesday. Tomorrow is Wednesday. If I'm in my channel, Encounter Roleplay I'll be playing Call of Cthulhu tomorrow. I had a lot of fun. Enjoying finding out more about Robar and his family as I play as well, honestly. And in other news, the Kickstarter that I'm doing did hit 50%, halfway funded.
Yes. You should link that again.
I'll link it to you guys here again in case you want to take a nosy over. But other than that, I am in a weird place in sleep. That
link didn't come out quite right.
Oh God, no. I should do. Yeah, no, it links.
Does it? Okay.
It's a Bitly thingy.
Oh, okay.
I similarly also kind of spaced out a bit as Terry did during their part. So I have to say, my foolish role playing was very much in and out of character.
Okay. This is why you never space out during any portion, because you never know. Pop quizzes.
I heard the word boat somewhere. Why did I hear the word boat?
Yes.
It was all for role-playing sake. We intentionally did not pay attention.
Right. You intentionally spaced out to simulate the event.
It's been a long week.
Yes, that's next level role
only
playing.
Tuesday.
That's next level role playing. But it's good stuff. Also, you guys, in addition to watching Will on this campaign, you can also watch Will as part of my Masters of the Dungeon show that we do once a month, where we talk about DM roundtable stuff. Actually, have you spoken to the person, Will, that we discussed, and can I announce that person or not?
Goodness, I don't. Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about. We can't make an announcement.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, it's that person is currently doing finals this week, and as such has been incredibly stressed. Okay, and I haven't not been talking to that person about work because of
that. Okay,
house.
Okay,
And
that's
I'm
fine.
like,
That's fine. So maybe we can make an announcement about that next
Yeah.
week. But
Really next week, anyway.
we will basically it's with Dave from the Digital DM, Will from Encounter Roleplay, of course, and myself, and usually Askren from Exploding Dice. But Askren has a bunch of charity streams and stuff going on, so he can't be here this month. So we do have a guest star, and I don't want to announce the guest star until we've cleared that. But you may find out about the guest star next week. But it is a cool show as well. So Will, thank you very much. Everyone, go and support that Kickstarter because we need more good modules in the world. And thank you, my friend. We will reconvene next week. Last but certainly not least, of course, is Trendane. Trend, good stuff today. We got to explore. I was reminded of Worf exploring Klingon culture. We get to explore more of Beorning culture now. So I've been digging that. So go ahead.
Everybody else just spaced out. I got up and went to the garage. So I didn't just have to simulate pretending like I didn't hear anything. I put my headphones down and I went to the other end of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea what they were going. There's some house building, some decoration going on. I know that much, and yeah. So, but I showed you my wolf and sheep clothing. The other one is this guy. His name is this is Wolfgang the sheep, but this is Leonard the mouse.
Mouse within the lion. Wow.
Yeah.
Wolfgang, really?
I like that this is basically a gentle. This is like a kinder, gentler transformer. Basically what we're talking about.
Not how the lion.
What? Sorry. What?
I was just thinking the mouse took the thorn out of the lion's paw and the lion ate it.
Yeah, the lion's like, thanks.
Ate the mouse. Ate the mouse, not the thorn, right? Because that would.
Yeah,
no. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
That makes no sense.
Yeah.
No.
Cool stuff. So where will the fine people see you next, sir?
I don't know. Well, yeah, actually, Thursday.
Blaze of the Dark is back.
Over on
back and running.
Yeah, the Dark is back. We had to skip last week, so this will be our first episode of the new season.
Without Louise, it's a whole new.
Without Louise,
world.
yeah.
Are you replacing her? Is there someone else who's going to jump in, or?
You can't replace.
Well,
Louise.
I know that. I'm aware. Yes.
But we did have we do have somebody else coming in.
Okay.
To fill that slot.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, and she kind of considered it a benefit last week that we wound up skipping because she still hasn't quite figured out exactly who she is. So it's like you've got another week, go, and that was
Which Louise is this? Sorry.
This would
the one
be
you know.
Oh, the one I know. I met Louise on Saturday. I was like,
oh, nice.
Talking about the same Louise, yeah.
She is. I said this before. She is a super good role player. Really good.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, I was really impressed.
She's a good DM too. She DM'd our Underdark campaign.
Oh, cool.
When I played Sokenish the Leech, who was a Drider, and there was a scene where my Drider was kind of looking her up at one of the NPCs that she was doing, and he was kind of looking her up and down and kind of licking his teeth, and she was both horrified and slightly pleased. But and I was like, I like this woman. Oh my god, I love this woman. And it was the first time that we'd ever really had any interaction. It was a great start.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool stuff. That's a fun campaign. Also, you will, of course, see Trendane on this channel on Saturday as we continue the Infinity and Beyond campaign and try to figure out. Last session was eventful. CSI, traps, lots of things happened. Yeah. So we got a lot of stuff going on there. So
a little bit of that this time, too.
We did. Well, yeah, we did. I know. I'm really happy with all the campaigns we're doing. Well, I will let the four of you go. I will close up shop. Great job tonight. I really enjoyed it. I hope you folks did, too. And I will see all four of you in various places. But as far as this campaign is concerned, same bat time, same bat channel next week at 12 o'clock Eastern. So Tren, Will, Terry, and Amal, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Goodbye. Thanks for the session.
Get some love from chat. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay. So that's going to do it for today. And just give me a second as I make sure that we get that I don't have this picture showing up. Hold on a second. I want to make sure that I come back to an actual larger webcam that isn't like this. There we go. Lovely. Now we can do this, and there we go. So, thank you all. This was great stuff. In chat as well, you guys did a wonderful job. So I hope that you enjoyed yourselves as well, and that you will follow all these wonderful people on their various campaigns and various things. I am now going to be heading over at the top of the hour to GOG, where I'm going to be continuing my more D&D, where I'm going to be continuing the adventure of Storm King's Thunder, and we're going to be with Screaming Joypad, who was here earlier, Pyron Jade, and Dark Saber. Been having a great time with that campaign as well. So I'm going to go over there and do that, and then that will be it. I am going into. I just had my last class on Monday, and then next week I have finals. I do have writing, quite a bit of writing that I want to try to get done over the next couple of months. But during the 6 weeks or so that I am off after we get done with finals, I definitely will be able to have a few special streams on off days, like holiday streams and things like that. So please be aware of that. And if you want to know, how do I find out more information? How do I discover this? How do I do stuff like that? The way to do it is to be able to check out the way to be able to do it is the way to be able to check out my channel, which means following my channel, so you can be notified when any information is made available. I usually try to tweet on my Twitter, which is at Gregory A. Wilson, as well, when I go live somewhere, so you can find out information that way. And of course, you can also join the Discord with exclamation point Discord, Steam group with exclamation point Steam group, and YouTube exclamation point ArvTube as well. Also, please make sure, if you can, to support the channel either through the Patreon, which is right there, exclamation point ArvTreon, or that up there, the button that's above your window, which is the sub button. Both of those things are helpful. All of those things help the channel. So thank you for those of you who are patrons and subscribers, and please continue to spread the word and do all that kind of good stuff. Now, with that said, I am going to, why exactly am I getting autofocus when I don't want autofocus? Because you've decided to bring the autofocus back. Sure. Definitely. I mean, why wouldn't you? Webcams. Anyway, but I'm going to be back at the top of the hour at 4 o'clock Eastern for Storm King's Thunder, so I hope you folks will come over there and check that out. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank my wonderful mods, Backburner, Dragon Spear, and 10 of Clubs. Great job today, folks. And Thorg, who just showed up, actually. Thank you to my subscribers as well, Burner and Dragon Spear. Of course, Brahms, Chaotix, X5, Darkside Rob, Hillness, Nonstop, Screaming Joypad, Terry Tunes. Look at all these wonderful subscribers. Thank you guys all for the subscriptions. And of course, special thanks to X5 for the introduction today. Thank you to Terry Tunes for her wonderful work today. Screaming Joypad, I will see you very soon. Also, thank you to my Patreon supporters that don't show up in chat. So thank you to 10 of Clubs, for example. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you to Amal. A wonderful job again today, and I will see you next week, Amal. Thank you to my viewers, Axeman, Ayami, Divinorium, ENT. Thank you to EK. Thank you to Encounter Roleplay. Thanks, Will. Much love, sir. Appreciate it. Great job today. Thank you to Garmin. Thank you to Grimdor Ironbeard. Thank you to Jagtris, to JRab, PKD Fan, Poltergeist Zero. Thank you to Praxagorethesmophoria. Sort of close. Thank you to SG Tellis. Thank you to Trendane. Great job again today, Trendane. Thank you very much. Thank you to you, Christensen, to Uncle Elias, of course, to With Intent, and to Zentari. Much love to all of you. You guys are the best viewers on Twitch, and I will see all of you wonderful people over at GOG in just about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, I guess. But that's going to do it for me. So thanks, everyone, and I will catch all of you wonderful people soon. Until then, everyone be good to each other. Have a good night. Oh, almost forgot. Thank you to Cubicle 7 for the official sponsorship of this stream as well. Wanted to make sure I got that in. Now, have a good day, and I'll see you in a little bit.